I asked my boyfriend to wait until I was ready to share my past. He secretly met my parents to ask for marriage. Am I the asshole for breaking up with him? Original post. Today is mine and my boyfriend's second anniversary. Though the first 6+ months of this we were FWB, so I don't think it counts, but he does. I don't talk to my parents. Haven't said a word to them since I was 16. I don't want to put the reason here, but it was bad enough that never speaking to them again could be seen as them getting off lightly. I left home at 16 by marrying my best friend. He knew what was happening the whole time and wanted to help me, and it was bad enough that marriage was the best escape plan I had. It was the only way to avoid being dragged back home. I'd tried running away before this, but we divorced 5 years later. We were both having issues with student finance, so we needed to go through it as married. I took his surname to avoid being tied to my parents, and my friend and I are still close. He actually set me up with my current boyfriend. My mom contacted me right before Christmas. I'd deleted my old Facebook, and then made a new one back in November, and forgot about the privacy settings until Mom messaged. She was asking if her and Dad could see me on Christmas Day. My boyfriend saw the message and asked who it was. I admitted she was my mother. This led to questions, as the only time I'd talked about my parents was to say I don't speak to them. I said that she found me, but I wasn't going to reply. I said I have my reasons which I'm not ready to tell yet, but I would as soon as I was ready. He said that was good enough for him. I blocked her and moved on. It's been a few months, and I've been trying to tell him, but it's hard. It's like every time I try I just can't get the words out. And then tonight, on our second anniversary, he proposed. Using my nan's ring. Which my parents have. I asked where he got it and he told me he'd gone to see my parents. He got Mom's name when she messaged me, contacted her and went to see her within a few days of me getting that message, the whole time knowing that I didn't want to hear from her. He'd asked them for permission to marry me, and they'd given him Nan's ring because Nan always meant for me to have it. I don't know if I actually dumped him. I definitely told him to leave, but I didn't actually break up with him. He's at his sister's place right now and keeps texting me, wanting to know what he did and asking me to call him, and his sister, who I'm friends with, is also asking what's happened. I knew he was traditional, and he put a lot of stock into family, which is why he was so close with his family, but he knew I didn't speak to mine and never pried into it, just took me at my word when I said I'd tell him when I was ready, and when I said that he'd said that he was patient and could wait as long as I needed. When I was in therapy, my therapist used to make me write stuff down or draw pictures or basically just put my feelings somewhere to get it out, so that's what I'm doing now. I wasn't even sure I was going to post this, but right now I'm just so lost and I have no idea what I'm doing or where I go from here. I love him, but this is honestly the only thing like this that I've ever asked of him. 6 hours ago I could see a future here, but now the last few months, this proposal, and any future proposal, all feel tainted somehow. I love my Nan, but knowing he asked my parents for permission and knowing how he got Nan's ring just makes me feel sick. Edit. He gave me his reasoning through messages and voicemails. His stance is that there's an importance to the tradition, and family is important, and there's mentions of my parents meeting our kids one day and Dad walking me down the aisle at our wedding. He seems to think the whole thing's fixable, and it sounds like they gave him some fake story about them grounding me so I ran away or something equally minor on their part and drastic on mine. He's also said that they seemed like nice people, and if he'd gotten a bad feeling when he was messaging my mom he would never have gone to meet them. From what he said, they asked about me, specifically what I do in my workplace, and he's given them this information, but no means of contacting me directly. I don't know what to do. I need someone to tell me what to do. I need a third party to give me advice, and that would normally be a therapist or something, but it's the middle of the night and I stopped going to therapy years ago, so can someone just please tell me what to do? Put things in perspective, give me advice? TLDR. I don't talk to my parents for reasons unknown to my boyfriend. I asked him to give me some time and I'd tell him. He then asked their permission to marry me. What now? Update. So here's where I'm at. I read every comment PM chat and decided I had to tell him, if for no other reason than to make sure he knew why I am so upset about this. I talked to my ex-husband, 25, about it, because he was there for the whole thing and watched it happen in real time, and he said he would be there for me and talk if I couldn't. My ex-husband was not happy with my boyfriend, to say the least, and told me that my boyfriend had actually asked him what happened about 6 months ago, but my ex-husband had said it was up to me to tell him when I was ready, and my boyfriend had said that was fair enough and he'd wait for me to tell him. Ex-husband hadn't told me any of this because I'd only just asked my boyfriend to move in and he didn't want to undercut my happiness, which he has apologized for and said he won't do that again, as in he won't keep things from me to protect me. So boyfriend comes over, ex-husband is already there, boyfriend asks why ex-husband is here. I say I invited him for emotional support when I tell him everything. Boyfriend isn't happy but sits down. I then began to tell him. The first thing I said was what they did in the bluntest language possible, as in my dad, one, and my mum, one, one. I started to elaborate when my boyfriend interrupts and says something like, they told me you'd lie. Ex-husband tells him to watch how he's speaking to me, and boyfriend says he'll speak to me how he likes, and then tells me that he knows the truth, and implies I should be thanking him for sticking around. The truth appears to be my parents telling him that I was always unstable, refused to see a mental health professional, and eventually they caught me breaking the law, and rather than report me they grounded me, and I ran away rather than get grounded, all of which is absurd, and I honestly can't believe that he bought it. Ex-husband tells boyfriend, or rather, ex-boyfriend, that he has half an hour to pack his shit and leave, and if he speaks to me at all his time straight goes to. My ex-boyfriend packs his shit and leaves silently. So to recap, he knew that 1. I've not spoken to my parents in a decade, 2. I got married at 16 and took my husband's surname to hide from them, 3. It was bad enough that I still have nightmares over it, and 4. I'd tell him when I was ready. Within a few days of hearing point 4, he sought out my parents and asked permission to marry me based on his own gut feeling about them, because the vibe he got from their texts was a far better judge of character than my 16 years with them / They fed him lies about me, which he bought, and he gave them information which includes my full name, job field, place of work, and possibly the address of our flat. While they have not done anything with this information yet, that I know of, my ex-boyfriend has stayed in touch this whole time, so if he messages them saying I broke up with him, they might decide to pay me a visit now there's no longer a man in the house. My ex-husband has offered to stay with me temporarily. I don't know if I have grounds for an RO, but it might be time to look for a new place. So yeah. Sorry for how dramatic this whole thing sounds. I just wanted to post an update because I got a lot of good advice on the first post, and I want to thank everyone who responded. Situation is now resolved, though it isn't exactly the happiest ending and there's still stuff to work out, but this part is over at least. Thanks again. My sister stole my wedding date, venue, and my family's support without knowing that my fiancé was the heir to an art empire. My sister looked at me directly and said, "You can cry later. This day belongs to me." She took my wedding date and venue without knowing my fiancé's identity. The truth ruined her totally. You don't mind rescheduling, right? It's just a small wedding. Mine's going to be a real event. My younger sister Mary stole my date, venue, and every respect for my family 3 weeks before my wedding. She specifically stated that. Call me Nora Sinclair. I teach visual arts at a small Portland liberal arts college at 35. I don't brag. Every filtered selfie doesn't have thousands of followers. And I don't follow trends. Mary's world is that. A 28-year-old beauty and lifestyle influencer, whatever that means nowadays. My parents like her. Always did. I'm quiet. Someone who valued stability over ambition. Theirs, not mine. Last October, I met Julian, an architectural designer, at a guest lecture and got engaged. He was kind, respectful, and noticed things I overlooked. Sketchbooks, long rainy Willamette River hikes, and black coffee were our favorites. I didn't want a big wedding when we were married. A nearby art museum hosts small weddings, so I chose it. Julian first declared his love over there. Even though it was small, the gallery was important. We booked it for May 20th at 3 p.m. over a year in advance. Everything was planned. The invitations went out. A former student made my dress, caterer, and florist. Our day was coming. Then Mary called. She insisted on a family supper at our parents' since she had crucial news. When I entered and saw the champagne popping, I should have known something was wrong. Mary sparkled and jumped in her chair. My parents greeted her with grins like she had declared world peace. I'm getting married, she jumped. To Aiden. The couple has dated for 6 months. He is a flashy advertising professional with perfect teeth who parks his Porsche like a character. Although confused, I added, "That's fast," to hide my confusion. Oh, and guess what? We're getting married on May 20th. Isn't that crazy? I chilled. What do you mean, the 20th? I responded hesitantly. That's my wedding day. Mary laughed like I joked. I know, but you didn't copy the date, Nora. Besides, you can reschedule, right? Your wedding's just small. Ours is going to be huge. We booked the Armitage Hotel. Aiden's uncle pulled strings to get us to the ballroom. It was the only available date. Falling heart. The Armitage was a city aristocratic neighborhood. More importantly, why my date? I looked at my parents, possibly expecting a response. Protect me? My father shrugged. Maybe it's best if you adjust. Mary's wedding will have more guests, more press. It's better for the family. The press? My mother spoke too. Nora, don't be difficult, your ceremony is more personal. You can move it to the next weekend, everyone will understand. Nothing made sense. I blinked as my relatives virtually wiped my nuptials in real time. I stood up. I'm not rescheduling, we planned this over a year ago. Mary's smile faded. Don't be selfish. I wanted to shout. I took my suitcase and departed. Mom called me. Think about what's best for the family. That night, I told Julian everything. He took my hand, listened, and briefly said, "We'll figure this out." And I trusted him. I wanted him to exist. However, the gallery coordinator called me the next morning. "Nora, I'm so sorry, but we've just been informed of a last-minute change. The gallery is no longer available on May 20th. Oh, I gasped. What? Why? A pause. It was booked under Mary Sinclair's name. My sister virtually seized my venue. I dropped the phone. My hand shook. The globe seemed to be tilting, and I was the only one falling. I realized this wasn't a coincidence. Mary was more than my date. She eliminated me. She didn't know Julian's real identity. Our next move. I stood in the midst of our small kitchen clutching the counter edge as if it were my only support. Still hearing the gallery coordinator's words. It was booked under Mary Sinclair's name. Not only did she take my date, she seized the place where Julian and I had poured our hearts out, where we first met, where I anticipated walking down the aisle with everyone who knew our tale. She dismissed it like it didn't exist. When Julian entered with 2 coffees, he halted at my face. No need to speak. She took the gallery, I whispered. Julian dropped the mugs and crossed the room. We'll find another place, he whispered. No, I said. You don't get it. This wasn't about logistics. This was personal. She waited until everything was set. Then she made her move. I knew Mary. Her grin was sweet but fake. The urge to be central drove it. She wasn't happy till the spotlight shone. And everyone disappeared into darkness. That spotlight was her birthright in our family. My parents reacted as expected when I told them what happened. Dad jokes, "Well, perhaps you should have completed the deposit earlier." I did. She outbid. Mom didn't apologize. It's just a venue, Nora. It's not worth causing drama between sisters. Be the bigger person. The bigger person. Always me. The silent one always. An older one. The one who lowered to let others shine. But something inside me exploded this time. I stopped answering Mary's texts. Blocking her on Instagram. After she posted photos of her dream venue reveal, which included the area I named my home, I removed my year-long wedding board. I told Julian, I don't want to do this anymore. He looked up from his sketchbook. Do what? Pretend like everything's fine? Pretend like I can just smile through it while they erase me? Julian was quiet. He closed his notebook, stood up, and grabbed his phone. Come with me, he ordered. We traveled silently for over an hour. I didn't ask about our destination. I think part of me was indifferent. I felt like my heart had been removed and left on the gallery floor because I was psychologically and emotionally exhausted. We reached an ivy-lined gate. A security guy opened it when he saw Julian. Where are we? I said finally. Julian only smiled. Somewhere no one can take from you. We entered a private art estate via a long stone driveway. A large contemporary glass pavilion is hidden amid a forest. Private gardens, indoor gallery wings, and an architectural deity-created reflecting pool are included. Julian, what is this place? I had never seen him face me so calmly. I own it. I blinked. What? I haven't been completely honest with you, Nora, he said. I design for myself. I have a studio, investments. I've kept a low profile because I've seen how people change when money enters the room. I was astonished by him. He continued. This is my personal gallery, and if you want it, it's yours. For the wedding. For anything. Sitting still, I was astonished. He was giving me something, not impressing me. He gave me options. Honor. Strength. I pretended to smile through tears. Mary is going to lose her mind. Julian grins. She has no idea what's coming. The emotional roller coaster dropped again when I thought it had peaked. I got a phone notice that night. Aiden, Mary's fiancé. He followed me on Instagram recently. It was odd because we never spoke. A straight message follows. You deserve better than what they did to you. Can we talk? I looked at my phone for a minute. You deserve better than what they did to you. Can we talk? From Aiden, Mary's fiancé. I thought that was a mistake. Maybe he meant to send it to someone else. Maybe he was just stirring things up. Though deliberate, the message remained unambiguous. Julian entered after I locked the screen. He offered me champagne and asked, "You okay?" I nodded reluctantly. "Yeah, just trying to process everything." I hid the message from him. "Not yet." Instead, I told Aiden one word. "Why?" His response was quick. "Because I'm not blind. I see what's happening, and I'm starting to wonder if I'm the next one being used." Like a chest punch. I understood that, not because I liked Aiden. That moment when you realize a loved one may be tricking you. Could we meet? Nothing unusual. Only coffee. In public. I agreed against my better judgment. We met in a downtown cafe the next afternoon. I wore a hoodie and sunglasses to hide. He appeared in a black blazer, looking more like a job interviewer than a loving fiancé. Immediately, he sat. "I didn't know she stole your venue," he said. "She told me it was available, that you decided to delay your wedding for budget reasons." It nearly made me laugh. "She lied." "Obviously," he moaned and massaged his face. "That's what I'm starting to realize. This whole wedding, it's like a marketing campaign for her. Everything's about the optics. She keeps pushing for me to get sponsorships for the ceremony. She even hired a videographer who's worked on reality shows." My stomach twisted. "Last week, she asked if we could pretend to have met at a beach in Bali so it sounds more exotic." "What?" I exclaimed. "Yeah. She said our real story wasn't share-worthy enough." Silence fell for a while. Drinks and music were muffled by my chest tightening. Then Aiden bent more. While whispering, "I also found out something else," he said. "She has a burner phone." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "She hides it in her makeup drawer. I saw her texting someone late at night. Laughing, deleting messages." When I asked, she got defensive. Said I was paranoid. I stared at him with icy knowledge. "You think she's cheating?" He shrugged. "I don't know. But I don't trust her anymore. And I can't ignore this sick feeling that I'm just another prop in her perfect image." I was speechless. I expected drama. Yes. However, this was going apart faster than I could keep up. Aiden looked me in the eye as we parted. "Whatever you're planning, I want to help." That night, I told Julian everything. Messages. A gathering. Phone that burns. He wasn't angry, which surprised me. He looked ready. "This is why we don't retreat," he said. "They wanted to humiliate you. Now we show them who you really are." The days after were frantic. Julian called softly. Distinct ones. He asked me to trust him. And I did. The invitations followed. We left first. Manually delivered. Elegantly printed with gold leaf and calligraphy. There was more. Each one had a secret RSVP code for the Redwood Pavilion, a luxury estate I had never heard of until Julian introduced me. He said it was in his circle. Conversations were underway. Then it happened. Phone call from Mary. After weeks of silence. She wasn't mad. She was arrogant, sobbing. "Hey, sis. Just wanted to let you know we're releasing our wedding trailer on social media this weekend. Thought you'd want a heads up, since, yours might look a bit underwhelming in comparison." I stayed mute. Allow her to talk. Before releasing her huge video, 2 days later, they seized her. Our wedding guest list was leaked on an industry portal and included several celebrities. Within hours, it went viral. Mary's worst fear arrived at home. Her message was all caps. "Why is Aiden refusing to finalize our guest list? What did you tell him?" I remained silent. Since Julian was printing the final seating layout in the studio. One seat was reserved for a VIP, Mary, the magazine's head editor, had pleaded for her inclusion for years. Comments on number 2 will reveal what occurs when Mary understands who has permanently stolen her spotlight. I always thought my wedding would be magical. In fact, retribution is more fulfilling. The morning of our wedding was very quiet. Portland had a bright sky, and the Redwood Pavilion was surrounded by trees that allowed in sunlight. Electricity pulsed in the cool, fresh air. Finally, I felt stable after weeks. My phone vibrated with missed calls, Instagram tags, and texts. Finally, Mary saw the article. Architectural heir Julian Redwood to marry local artist at secret estate event, A-list guests confirmed. She had no idea Julian was Redwood descended. She had no idea how much larger our arena was than the one she tried to take. Who knew that the quiet, small girl she had spent her life snoozing over would suddenly shine brightly in front of Portland's elite. She also had no idea who else was attending. By noon, art world celebrities, architects, media personalities, and the governor's wife arrived in luxury cars on the estate. Julian made them feel welcome. I gazed in shock from the bridal suite window. A knock followed. It was Aiden. His hand shook when he offered me a little velvet package, despite his calm attitude and clean clothes. I asked, "What's this?" He said, "A little insurance, checking the door for anyone looking." She doesn't know I kept it. A flash disk was inside. Aiden bent. "Texts, voice recordings, video proof? She planned to sabotage your wedding, admitted it was revenge for you stealing attention. Tried to bribe the gallery coordinator to bump you off the calendar. My throat is parched." Continuing. "She told me the only way she could shine was if your light was off." His eyes darkened. "She didn't just want to marry me. She wanted to beat you." The flash disk was closely held. "Why are you giving me this?" He said. "Because I'm done being used," quietly. "And because, part of me hopes this ends with her learning something." Julian arrived calmly a few moments later. "It's time." Mary declared 2 p.m. to be her own time, and the ceremony began then. However, today was mine. To the sound of a string quartet, I walked down the aisle past people I never believed would support me. The water poured through my clothes. My heart beat steadily. Julian took my hand as his own when I reached him. The real revenge happened at the reception. Julian stood to toast with his glass. "Thank you all for joining us on this incredible day," remarked. "Today isn't just about love. It's about truth, about integrity, and about standing up when someone tries to silence you." Room went quiet. He continued. "My wife, my brilliant, kind, resilient wife, had her wedding nearly stolen from her. The venue, the date, even her dignity. But instead of shrinking, she rose." He regarded me. I nodded. Julian pointed to the AV crew corner. He said, "And today, we'd like to share the full story." Behind us, the screen animated. Mary spoke over the speakers. "She'll cancel, she always does. She's soft. That gallery is mine. I don't care what it takes." Gasps filled the hall. She sent the coordinator screenshots of her texts. Screenshots of her telling Aiden, "This is my year. She can cry later." Several visitors seemed appalled. Others nodded. They have seen cruelty disguised by beauty and charm before. Finally, Aiden's hidden video started playing. Mary and Buddy laugh. If she really cared about that guy, she'd step aside. She's not even marrying for love, Julianne. He's just some artsy dude with no money. My wedding is the real deal. The video ended. Silence followed. Let's cheer. Roaring, long, unrelenting. Doors blasted open then. In the back was Mary. She smudged makeup. Still wearing her handmade gown. They are alone. She checked it out. Noticed the eyes. The verdict. The truth. Next, her mother, my mother, exclaimed, "Mary, enough. Leave." Everyone turned. Mary's expression was bland. "What? You embarrassed this family enough," Mom said. "This isn't your day." Those who loved the golden child abandoned her. She hurried outside crying. I got a letter 3 days after the wedding. Not an email. Not SMS. A real envelope. Handwritten. No return address. Only one paper was inside. "This isn't over. You stole everything from me, just wait." I should have been scared. But I wasn't. Because Mary had lost her 2 most valuable possessions. Her photo. Her authority too. Her sponsorships plummeted once the wedding video went online, especially the portion where she mocked Julian and admitted she ruined my plans. Her management company cut ties publicly. And the luxury skincare line she was partnering with? Lost. Last to strike was Aiden. He stated in a somber, courteous manner that competing ideals had canceled the engagement. He donated their postponed wedding money to a women's shelter in my name. Julian and I received letters from designers, painters, and even classmates I hadn't spoken to in years congratulating me for speaking out against the subtle cruelty that so many people allow. Just when I thought we were done, Mary tried again. She visited my college. In mid-lecture, my department head knocked and dragged me into the corridor. "She's here," he grumbled. "It's urgent." I entered the faculty lounge to find her pacing like a stuck animal. She looked nothing like the girl on social media. She had messy hair. She buttoned her expensive coat wrong. Her normally immaculate nails had broken edges. "Nora," she raged. You need to fix this. I blinked. Excuse me? You ruined my life. That video? You had no right. It was a private conversation. I said, it was you, Mary, calmly. Your words. Your actions. She moved forward. I had everything. And now I'm nothing. Are you happy? No, I whispered. I'm not happy you're suffering. I'm just finally done being the one who always steps aside. She glanced at me as if it were new. Perhaps she didn't. She played with me, but I wasn't her sister. I finally made my own choice. That was her last mistake. While lunging at me and grabbing my wrist, she shouted, I'll make sure you lose it all too. Campus security was notified. The witnesses included a professor, 2 students, and security footage. I filed a restraining order later that week. The local newspapers reported, former influencer accused of threats, public breakdown at university. She supposedly moved in with our parents. The same parents who finally persuaded her to seek help rather than explain her conduct. All her social media was deleted, her accounts vanished. Her name now conjures stillness after being a hashtag. And I? Julian and I just returned from our honeymoon in Florence. The sun. The art. The tranquil cafes. I never expected so much. My department offered me a promotion. My program supports young artists who have been bullied from creating. Looking at Julian at night, I realize, I got more than justice. I was free. Freedom from analogies, absence of coercion. Freedom from fame's shadow. Mary tried to steal everything. However, ultimately, she met all my needs. An argument for finally choosing myself. Never return that. Comment on the second if you think Mary got what she deserved. I yelled at my wife that having a child with her was the biggest mistake of my life and that she had made me miserable. Now, I regret my words. Repost as my last post got removed. I have been with my wife for 4 years. I have a 5-year-old from a previous relationship. My 5-year-old, Leah, is from my first long-term relationship during college. We split shortly after her birth, as my then partner admitted to being unfaithful and not being ready to start a family. My daughter loves my wife. They are inseparable. My ex does not have much to do with my daughter or myself except cause the occasional drama. She did not want any custody or visitation time, so my wife is her mother for all intents and purposes. My wife is almost 8 months pregnant. She has shut me out of the entire pregnancy but refuses to admit anything is wrong. I feel completely ignored and hurt. When we first learned she was pregnant, she told me while I was making breakfast. Of course I was elated. However, since it was an unplanned pregnancy, I asked how she was feeling at first. She began smiling and crying about how excited she was. I picked her up, gave her a million kisses, and told her I was so excited to have a baby too and what a wonderful mother she would be. All good, right? She went all out to announce it to everyone else. Balloons and boxes, t-shirts and best big sister mugs. I assumed the casual announcement with me was because she wanted my feelings on growing our family before celebrating. However, when her sister asked about how I liked my box, my wife quickly said, "He didn't get one, this isn't his first rodeo." It was like pulling teeth to get her to let me go to the ultrasound appointments. She didn't want me to miss work, didn't want to interrupt Leah's routine, excuse after excuse. When it came to listening to the heartbeat, my wife instantly started crying happy tears. The tech was telling her how strong the heartbeat was, how precious our little one was, etc. I was feeling a bit emotional and cleared my throat to prevent crying. The tech said, "Aw Dad, isn't that sound beautiful?" My wife immediately said, "This isn't his first child. It's not that special for him." I immediately said, "This is one of the most important moments of my life. I can't think of anything more special." The atmosphere was clearly awkward after. Another thing that bothered me, I heard Leah and my wife's mom laughing in the living area. I was in the kitchen making dinner. When I walked in and asked what the fuss was about, Leah was touching my wife's stomach and was laughing with excitement that the baby was moving and it would be so cute. My wife let my daughter and Mill feel the baby move before me. I was hurt but simply said how happy I was. Later that night, my wife was poking her belly and laughing. I asked her to feel as well and she said, "You felt Leah move as a baby. What can be better than that?" She was the cutest baby ever. She has felt pretty poorly throughout her pregnancy, but refuses to let me help her. If I bring her a snack and drink, she offers it to our daughter. If I try to rub her feet or legs, she asks me to play with our daughter so she doesn't feel like she is being replaced or ignored. I simply do not ignore my daughter. We have bonding time. I'm an active parent but I want to love my wife. She can hardly eat, but when I asked her what I can prepare for her, it's whatever Leah wants. We went to the zoo with Leah, and my wife started feeling bad. She had cramps and was considering going to the hospital, severe nausea and dizziness. I carried her to a bench nearby and she began to cry, saying she can't even stand up. I told her, let me call an ambulance or I'll carry you to the car and drive you. She said she didn't want to ruin Leah's trip, and we didn't even make it to the aviary, Leah's favorite part. I said I wasn't leaving when she asked me to continue to go through the zoo with Leah. We sat for a while until her dad showed up. She didn't even tell me he was coming, and he took her to the doctor. I was shocked, and followed them with Leah. When we arrived, Leah was upset about missing the aviary and pouting. At that point, the health of my wife and unborn child were my concern. I really didn't care that Leah was upset. My wife was irate that I made Leah miss out. Another example, we were watching Leah play in a local kids' sport. I asked her, do you think our kid will be athletic, artistic, enjoy science or math? She said, this is Leah's moment, we shouldn't make it about someone who isn't even here. Leah was on the field, we were sitting in the stands. We had both waved to her, held up a sign for her, everything. I just wanted to talk about our baby. When her bump was really showing, she would always show it off to anyone who wanted to look. Her family, friends, siblings, etc. Do you want to see my bump? I'm huge, so excited, I can't believe it's only X more weeks. They all touch her bump, talk to it, etc. Her parents come and read or tell back in the day stories. They go to the beach? 1,000 bump pictures posted on her friends' social media accounts, so ready to be an honorary auntie. Her sister wife puts the B in bump and beautiful. If we go out together, she wears the loosest clothes so I don't see it. I'll even see her pull her shirt down when she sees me come into the room. She sat on me the other day after being playful in bed. Her bump was right in my face. I ran my hands up it and said, you are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. You already are a great mom to Leah. I can't wait to see you as our family grows. This was one of the first times I was really able to feel her bump, so I rested my hand there and said, I love you so much already. I'm so excited to meet you. I hope you have your mom's eyes. She moved off of me and said, I know ex-partner had a bigger bump than me. I bet it was fun seeing Leah move all the time. You don't have to act like you care. I know you've done this before. I said I don't think about it that way. Leah is special, but this is a completely new and different special because it was with her and our baby was someone completely new and special. She began to leave the room and I could see her shoulders shake from crying. I am 100% positive she is not cheating, nor has she ever. I just can't wrap my head around why she doesn't want me to be happy about this. The rest of the time is completely normal as long as I don't mention the baby. She is affectionate, initiates intimacy, brags about what a good husband I am and how great I've made this pregnancy. We plan for our future, have date nights, everything else. Unfortunately, we had a fight where I snapped. I had a break between clients at work, so I went to a local baby store and got a lot of things she had planned for the baby and nursery on her Pinterest board. I came home and surprised her with flowers, a prenatal massage certificate, and her favorite food, as well as the baby items. She seemed very grateful, but when I came home, editor's note, OOP meant when he got home after going back to work again, the items were no longer there. She said she returned it to buy Leah stuff, as she was going to feel left out. I lost it, I cried for the first time in our marriage and yelled that having a child with her was the worst mistake I've ever made, that at least my deadbeat ex at least gave me the chance to know my unborn child. That I didn't care about the baby because she wouldn't even let me bond with it. I do care, have since she told me. That I hope she was as miserable as she made me and that she better be prepared for a custody dispute. She is a SAHM for Leah. She simply said, I know you don't care about the baby, but I'll die before you take my baby from me. What? I have begged her to let me interact with her, our baby. I asked her if her therapist had any insight on why she was being like this. She said no, that she isn't doing anything. I told her what I said above and she said I had those experiences already so it shouldn't matter. I asked her if the baby was mine. I know it is, I was just being mean. She threw her phone at me and said yes, go through it. I'll do a paternity test, whatever you need. I just called her parents and asked them to go to our house as we were having a disagreement and went to a hotel. I do not want to stress her or our unborn child, and I really want to repair this but I truly don't know how. I'm staying at an Airbnb for now until we can figure this out, but I truly don't know what to do. I miss her like crazy, and I can't even begin to understand why she wants to behave this way. I have apologized for what I said, but I can't take back what I said and I worry about when our baby will be born if she will even want to be a family with me. or let me have anything to do with our baby. I spoke with a mutual friend who says she is very distraught and says she can't be a single mom, loves me, but her actions prove the opposite time and time again even when I beg for change. Relevant comments. Why did you say those things? OP, downvoted. I said those things because I wanted to hurt her like she has been hurting me. It's as simple as that. I regret it. I have apologized. She has told me time and time again you shouldn't care, and I told her whatever I thought I could to hurt her. It was childish and immature of me, and it was a knee-jerk reaction. I hadn't planned on saying any of that. Commenter. Yeah, I can understand why you're angry. Has she explained why she has been saying those things? Resentment is a weird thing. She may not have even realized she had that until she became pregnant, but I do think that if that was something she'd been feeling, that it's something she should have spoken to either you or your therapist about. OP. Nothing. I've begged her to talk to me about it. I've told her we can go to counseling together, and guess what her response was? She cried and asked if I was unhappy in our marriage. I said no, I want to be more involved with you in this pregnancy. You've left me in the dark. I asked if she was unhappy. Did she want a divorce? Decide she doesn't want this baby? More tears, seemed genuinely hurt. I would even think that. Makes no sense in my mind. Apparently I should just stand on the sidelines. Commenter. Is it possible she's resentful of your 5-year-old? What's your relationship with Leah's mother like? OP. I truly don't think she is resentful. She adores my 5-year-old and I think she is probably the preferred parent. She takes her to the park, museums, mommy and me painting. Shows up to school events, muffins with mom, etc. without fail, takes care of her when she's sick, plans our vacations out around my 5-year-old's interests. Her cousin had said something about not bringing her stepdaughter before, and my wife completely freaked and said that we don't use titles around here that make us feel like we aren't one family. She is my daughter and nothing less and will not be excluded, type thing. When she was first pregnant we took a short trip to see some of her family and she cried every day about missing Leah. She is in therapy and has been since we met for anxiety and depression, but it is clearly no help. I have brought up prenatal depression at her doctor's appointment, but she really doesn't match as she is elated unless I specifically bring up the baby. Downvoted comment about seeing an attorney because he probably won't be allowed at the birth and they should just get divorced. It's definitely a fear in the back of my mind. I know Leah will be devastated. My wife already mentioned wanting her mom in the delivery room since I've already seen my kid being born, that it would only serve to embarrass her if I'm in the room this time. Commenter, you two need couples therapy immediately. You should have started it after her first or second comment. You've known for months things weren't right. Also, call her OB and explain what's going on. Ask them to make a record of her shift in behavior and stress that she's never done anything like this before getting pregnant. OP. I stupidly attributed it to hormones and other issues that come with pregnancy. She was sick for most of her pregnancy and for a lot of it actually lost weight, was constantly hungry but couldn't eat and became very body conscious. She is doing much better now and is a healthy weight and I genuinely thought it would get better. It's much easier to see in hindsight that the first few comments were deeper than that. Commenter, why the fuck did you say all that shit? She was acting really off, for sure, but you really fucked up. That's some awful, very possibly unforgivable stuff you just said. And you seemed like such a decent guy. OP, I am an idiot. I did fuck up, and I have apologized, not that it means much to her at this point. I said whatever I could say to hurt her. It was months of resentment building up. Months of begging for her to tell me what's going on, to let me in, to let me think of baby names with her. I was and I still am hurt. I hope it can be repaired, as I would like to be there for her and be a full-time father to my child. It breaks my heart to think of splitting custody time. OP clarifies his relationship with Leah and the aviary event. OP, I absolutely did not care that we did not see the aviary. We go to the zoo regularly and I had promised we would go back. When your pregnant wife is so ill she begins crying that her legs don't work and she can't walk and begins saying she thinks she might die due to such strong abdominal cramps, you're not concerned with missing the aviary. I did not tell my child I did not care. I told my wife in the hospital that her and our unborn child's health became before birds and that Leah can pout and be mad until we were certain she and our baby were okay. We do everything for Leah. Leah and I have bonding time both with and without my wife. Together we enjoy fishing, going to the arcade, and playing Barbies. My daughter is confident in our relationship. Just the other day my dad said he didn't want to play horses with her anymore and she of course said, "Fine, I know Dad will always play with me." I absolutely have not and never will neglect or abuse my child. This is such a far reach because I was concerned more about my wife than my daughter going to an aviary. To another commenter, She is 5, and is very smart. She knows that the hospital and ambulance are things people need when they are very sick. She completely understood my wife felt bad, even said I needed to get her tummy medicine so we could keep going. I didn't say, "We are leaving," cry about it. I did tell her we were following Mom and Grandpa to the DR because Mom was feeling very bad, and that we can come back another day, and said when Mom feels better we will get her an ice cream since she didn't get to see the birds. She pouted, all kids do. Did she see that I was more concerned with my wife? Yes. She even commented that Grandpa seemed upset. We live in a hot and humid climate, and my wife went from red and using a fan to pale white and saying she was cold. It was scary for me. When you arrive at the hospital and want updates. Are you okay? Is the baby okay? And your wife is miffed that you didn't take your child to an aviary, and that's all she wants to talk about is that she is pouting. It hurts. Commenter. And for someone who is a self-proclaimed good husband, why has he not addressed this with his wife before? If she is acting so out of character, and showing odd behaviors, why has he not talked to her about it? Every in-tune partner would be scrambling to get to the bottom of this after a few remarks. He just let that shit glide. OP. You don't think I've talked to her about this? I am shut down every time. I exploded after begging her to talk to me for the 100th time. This was not out of nowhere. I have literally gotten on my knees in front of her and asked why she is doing this. If there is a reason, what does her therapist say? Do you want to go to therapy together? And she says she doesn't know what I'm talking about. It is the most frustrating, infuriating thing. It's so hard to watch something so special pass by you and pretend it's not happening. I regret what I said and don't expect sympathy. But my explosion was not from lack of trying update. It's been about a month since I posted. This is a bit long because so many kind Redditors reached out and gave me advice and shared their experiences and asked for an update. After I posted and stewed for a little while, and had a couple of drinks, I called my Phil. He and my wife are very close, and I respect his opinion. He has been married for a very long time, and seems to have a happy marriage and has good relationships all around with his family. I didn't specify what issues we were having, but he was over at my house while I was staying in an Airbnb, so it was no secret we were having problems. He has more of a traditional marriage, and at some point asked what I had to lose by putting pressure on her to talk. I said I feared I would push her away more, and he pretty much told me that I was living in a separate house than my pregnant wife, freaking out about a potential divorce. What did I have to lose? He advised me to be a man, and come back to my house and lay it on the line. I told him I'd be coming over the next day. They asked if they could take Leah to buy some sparklers for the upcoming holiday and spend the night at their house. I agreed, and when I went to my house the next day I came in with flowers and stuff to make dinner. My wife asked what I was doing there, to which I replied I live there and would like to sit down and talk. I gave a long apology for my actions and words. When I finished, I said it was her turn to tell me what was going on. She tried to claim nothing, that everything was okay. After a while, I said my heart is broken, that we have been through some tough things together, fought for each other, and now you sit here and lie to my face. We both sat there and she cried for about 30 minutes until eventually she said she felt like our relationship would end if she was honest. I said I would hear her out, no matter what. She admitted it was hard that this would be her first kid and not mine. She didn't think it would bother her, and it didn't until she was pregnant, and that she laid in bed at night thinking if my ex would have wanted to raise Leah we would still be a family together and she wouldn't matter. She expressed that seeing me emotional about our baby, or wanting to touch her bump, or treat her made her think of me and my ex and how I had already did all of the things she was excited to do with me. Near the beginning of her pregnancy, she had told a close friend that she couldn't wait to have a baby with her soulmate, and her friend replied that she didn't think soulmates had other children or baby mamas, that it was two people meant only for each other. She was very upset and asked if I thought we were soulmates like she did. She described herself and our unborn child as my sloppy seconds family, that no one grew up dreaming of having kids by multiple different people. That she was just the substitute when the family I wanted didn't work out. She also shared she had found some old images of my ex on social media and could not stop comparing her pregnant body. She feared the baby wouldn't be an equal to Leah in my eyes. It worried her when I would ask what she thought the baby would be like, that what if the baby was disabled, or didn't like to do the things we enjoyed as a family, or the baby and Elle didn't like each other. She said at one point she found herself wishing I had never had Leah, so she wouldn't have to worry as much, and that is when she knew she had to really put in the extra effort to maintain a relationship with Leah. She feared that between work and Leah, I wouldn't have time and wouldn't bond with the baby like in the articles she read online where fathers didn't bond with their children until they were able to do things with the family. When I did try and bond with the baby, she worried the baby wouldn't live up to Leah. I have never been shy about saying how much being a father means to me and how raising Leah has been the highlight of my life, along with marrying my wife and now having our child together. She said it was initially what made her confident in marrying me and excited to have a big family with me. But now constantly wondered if her pregnancy and this baby would be a highlight or a burden for me, because the stress is the same but the newness wasn't. And then what if a newborn and then toddler wouldn't be as interesting to me as Leah, who is capable of doing activities? She showed me a million articles of different men explaining they didn't bond with their children until 4+ years old. She also showed me videos where people say things they did with their first kid, and then get more relaxed as they have more children. She said it freaked her out because it was clear people stopped caring the more children they had. She said that there were times she felt she was ruining our family and coming between me and Leah. For example, at the zoo she said she cried on the way to the hospital. She was afraid Leah would hate her and resent the baby for cutting our zoo time short, and that I would be upset that I was spending my time off work at the hospital instead of doing the activities we planned with Leah. While I work, Leah and my wife spend a lot of time out of the house, library, local parks, etc. One of their favorite activities is biking together, and we bike together on weekends as well. We have lots of local trails, but due to her pregnancy she has not been able to. We've been doing more indoor activities. My wife said that when I'm at work, Leah kept saying she hated her because she didn't get to go on her new bike as often anymore. I said I would discuss it with her, because that is unacceptable. My wife asked me not to since there would be so many changes soon for Leah, and it hurt her because she missed biking together as well. A couple of months ago, my wife asked me and Leah if we wanted to read stories together. Leah chose the first story I read and my wife chose the second, her favorite childhood story, for me to read to the baby and Leah, since it helps promote brain activity and help with bonding. After that, I read another book of Leah's choosing. While I was at work the next day, Leah ripped the pages out of the book my wife chose. She said she was going to tell me, but her friend, the same friend who says we aren't soulmates, said I would think she was making it up and that it seemed to her she was trying to become between me and Leah. I asked her why she didn't tell me any of this, and she explained that she didn't feel comfortable telling me because her thoughts didn't even make sense to her. She wanted me to spend time with Leah so she didn't feel left out or jealous, and when I did she felt upset I wasn't spending more time with her. She loves Leah but wishes we had our first kid together. She wants me around but also feels upset and guilty when I give her/our unborn baby attention. She said she feared that I would think she was trying to come between me and Leah, when she wasn't. By the time I realized something was truly wrong and started to ask what was wrong, if she needed therapy, etc., she said she realized she was acting poorly, but didn't want to admit to herself that she missed out on a lot with me and doubled down as it was hard to face that she made her fears reality by pushing me away and not letting me care. And that she couldn't start over, that her first pregnancy was a somewhat bad experience because of her own actions. At this point, I realized how terrible I'd been. I apologized for making her feel like she couldn't come to me about anything. She said when she researched her feelings she found a bunch of forums where people were calling the poster evil for their feelings about their stepchild, and feared I would feel the same. She said if I had told her I felt about Leah the way she felt about Leah, that it would make her angry and upset, so she couldn't see how I wouldn't be. We both cried for a long time. I tried to reassure her. I told her how much I loved her. How excited I was, that she was the family of my choosing and my soulmate, that the universe knew that Leah and I needed her, which is why circumstances allowed us to be a family. She apologized for the way she treated me, and said she wanted to make it right. She said she had wanted to apologize when I was beginning to have my meltdown, but was surprised when I yelled, and realized she might have messed up beyond repair to get that reaction from me. We continued to cry for a long time, and she asked if I wanted to feel the baby. Of course I said yes, and we cried even more. It turned out to be a great evening. I made us dinner and we laughed about how I was so stressed I went to Reddit for advice. She wanted to read the post and cried again when she did. I reassured her we could move past this and she said she felt less horrible as she read some of the comments from women in her shoes. It was a bit awkward the first week, after so many months of tension. I knew things were turning around when she woke me up by whispering baby wants blueberry pancakes that Saturday. I don't think I've ever prepared pancakes so fast, I couldn't keep the smile off my face. We ended up going to a pool party a few days later, and she let me choose her swimsuit, a big deal for someone who only wore baggy clothes around me. We took family pictures, and the universe is clearly on my side because on the way home she asked me to feel her belly and our baby was hiccuping, something I had never felt before and it was the first we could share together. She has even let me help her when she is sick without making an excuse about Leah. I've learned that when she comes and puts her back to me and lifts her arm, that is my cue to lift her belly up. I now spend a lot of time rubbing and talking to her belly, and rubbing her feet, legs, back, shoulders, hips, haha, she is sore everywhere at this point. The first 500 times it made me cry. It has been such a relief to be involved. I never thought being tasked with acquiring the most random food items at 2 a.m. would be a great time for me, but it is. It still sucks that I missed out on a lot. I think it sucks for her too. She gets emotional and says a weight has been lifted off of her and things are so much easier, and she is upset that she didn't talk to me sooner. I have been working to fix some of my wife's guilt. I realized there were a lot of simple fixes. For example, I was able to go to my local bike shop and get a pull behind the trailer. Now, I pull her in that and she can use a small fan and ice packs, and Leah can ride her bike. I have taken off work so I can spend more time with them both. We are all in therapy and thankfully Leah's therapist is continuing to say she is securely attached to both of us, enjoys the time we spend together, is coping very well. Some of her behavior was due to another situation, which we have resolved, and she is excited to be a big sister. My wife was terrified that maybe she could sense her attitude shift, but her therapist says that she only has one complaint about my wife, that she forgot her candy one time and then it took 32 whole minutes for the store to deliver it. My wife is in therapy working to overcome the negative feelings she has. That is pretty much where we are now. We are getting very close to baby time and working hard to finish preparing. My wife still needs reassurance. There are a lot of times she brings up my ex and I've found bringing up our first helps. For example, she will ask about certain things and how it was for me. I'll say I don't want to talk about that, and steer the conversation to us. Do you remember our first house? First vacation? First kiss? Date? Remember that time blah blah? It made me fall more in love with you. Do you remember when you and Leah made me blah? That is still one of my prized possessions. It upsets me that my wife suffered for so long. I believe saying it out loud took a lot of power away from her feelings. I think most people know how badly it feels when you have thoughts that don't feel like your own when you're going through a mentally taxing time. I really should have stood up for our relationship and her mental health way sooner. I accepted her brushing me off for far too long when I should have realized she needed help. I appreciate everyone who reached out or offered advice. I posted this in detail with my wife's permission. She hopes that it helps someone out there struggling with the same feelings she felt. TLDR. My wife was facing insecurity and some mental health issues and did not feel she could reach out to me as they involved my bio daughter. Thankfully, Elle received great advice from my FIL and you all, and we spoke about it and worked it out. After some awkward times, things are somewhat back to normal and I'm able to be involved in my wife's pregnancy. Everyone, including Leah, is doing well and excited for the baby to arrive. Relevant comment. Commenter. I wonder, how is your wife moving forward regarding her friend? It seems she didn't even consider having these insecurities before she had a snake in her ear. OP, we have disinvited this friend from our home. It's hard to cut her out as she is part of my wife's larger friend group. My wife was unsure as this friend has gone through some hard things lately. However, recently my wife hosted a girls' night and her friends were arriving as I was leaving. I told her she looked beautiful and wished them a good time. When I arrived back, my wife told me this friend said in front of the whole group that I may be saying kind things to her now, but after some changes after birth I won't describe here, I will be after her. My wife said that was an unkind and untrue thing to say, and she said it was a joke. I made it very clear to my wife that I did not want her around, as we are in an emotionally vulnerable time and this person clearly does not wish us well, and she agreed. I'm frustrated because of my useless husband. Am I the asshole for telling my husband that I see him as a liability and not a partner? Sorry for the long post, it's 2 a.m. and I'm crying and tired and worn out. If I'm rambling, it's because I've held this in for so long not wanting to burden friends or family with my marital troubles. I 34F have been with my husband, 37M, we'll call him Nathan, for 8 years. Ever since our daughter, 3F was born, I have been unable to trust Nathan with anything no matter how small. Background context. When I was 19 after a semi-truck driver fell asleep at the wheel and turned my car into scrap metal with me inside it. I have enough metal holding me together that I light up like a Christmas tree for TSA and physically impaired with good days and bad days. I used a portion of my settlement check to buy a house outright, and have it retrofitted to accommodate my needs as I'll eventually require a wheelchair. I work in software development as it's fun, and nobody cares if I work from bed on bad days. My husband has not worked in 5 years, which has been fine until our daughter was born. Between the settlement money, a paid-off house, and my salary, I enjoyed having him here with me. He contributed by handling most of the domestics. We pay for a weekly cleaner with monthly deep cleaning because it gives us more time together. Ever since our daughter was born, it was like a light switch turned off in his head. For our daughter, he would buy the wrong size diapers. Not fully mixed bottles. Put diapers on backwards. Leave out poop-covered wipes. Forget to latch cabinets. This past week, he has gone to the store 3 times because he keeps coming home with the wrong size socks and shoes for her. I eventually just ordered the right ones on Amazon. For me, he has tried to help me with my weekly pill organizer fill-up and several times has spilled the contents of new medications all over the floor. Then, not seeing that he didn't get all of them off the floor, he has repeatedly brought me grapefruit juice to take my medications with, a huge no. He has repeatedly forgotten that I can't have dairy and puts milk in my coffee. Or cheese on a burger. He has broken so many things of mine from being careless. He shattered my laptop because it slipped out of his hand when he tried to pack it for a trip. Even after I said I would pack my own electronics. We've lost so many spoons and forks to the disposal. He tried to replace the head gasket in my car and over-torqued the engine bolt, which shattered inside the block, and 2 different shops said they couldn't repair it. We ended up getting a new vehicle because a replacement engine would have cost $11,000. A week later, he crashed the new car into the garage door because he thought he'd pressed the brakes, not accelerator. He wanted to do TikTok and streaming as a hobby. I supported him initially, but I quickly noticed a pattern. Anything regarding our daughter or me, he was sloppy and careless. He never whooped his own stuff. He would build entire sets to stream or make videos with, leave the garage and leave his brain in the garage. It came to a head 4 nights ago. He streamed himself building a new set piece. 9 hours straight. Meanwhile I worked. Clocked out early, to pick up our daughter from summer camp, cooked and fed both of us, got her ready for bed. He came out to help put her to bed. I let him know that I needed to get some work done and would be in my office. And I asked him to take the trash out. He says he will. 2 hours later, I left my office and the house felt really warm. He'd taken the trash out, but left our front door partially open. And was back in the garage with his game volume really loud. I panicked since our daughter was able to get out of bed and thankfully she was sound asleep. But she could have easily toddled right out of the house and he wouldn't have noticed. Then I noticed a stovetop burner was on. With a small pot on it with nothing inside. I didn't use the stove for cooking that night. I popped my head into the garage and said, "Hey, I need you for a minute." I informed him of the door situation and he responded, "I thought I locked it." We checked the camera. And no, he did not. I asked about the burner being on and he said he was planning to make ramen and forgot. He pulled the still hot pot off the burner and put it straight into the sink on top of our daughter's favorite plastic plate. Which is now ruined. I'll admit I overreacted and screamed, "What are you doing?" He realized what he'd done and pulled the pot off our daughter's plate. And straight onto the countertop. I grab it quickly and run it under water to cool it down. I tell him I can't tonight. I can't deal with him. I'm taking my meds and going to sleep. He gets a cup from the cupboard and sets it straight onto the burner that had been on. I hit my limit. I started crying. He kept saying that it was fine, things happen, it's just an accident, he's had a rough day from streaming, he's just tired. Why am I crying? It's just a cup. We can replace it. The anger hit and I said, "It's because I have a liability and not a partner." He said, "What the fuck does that mean?" I screamed that it's because I can't trust him to do anything. That I'm always having to watch him like a child. Always having to bear the costs of his mistakes. That every time I get careless and think I can trust him to be an adult, I'm always the one getting fucked over. I then said, "I can't see you as a partner anymore. You're just another liability in my checkbook." He immediately stormed out of the kitchen and went to bed. I called my mom and told her what happened. She thinks it's just stress and offered to take our daughter for a week so we could figure this out without our daughter seeing it. She says it was an asshole thing to call my husband a liability. In the morning I told my husband that my mom would pick up our daughter from summer camp and offered to watch her for a week. He said okay. And that's the only interaction we've had since. He spends all day in the garage playing games with his friends, making TikToks, and streaming. For food he's been ordering DoorDash and having the person deliver it in the garage. It's been days and he refuses to be in the same room as me. I've tried messaging him to ask if we can talk. Or figure out a solution. But he's just left me to read. If I pop into the garage, he ignores me but apologizes to his friends or viewers for the interruption, and Geek unmutes his mic when the noise stops. Before the blow-up, I've asked if there was something going on. I tried to gently respond every time he screwed up so our daughter didn't associate mistake to anger. I asked him to schedule a doctor to see if something was going wrong medically. He always said I was overreacting, people make mistakes, and didn't see an issue, even when the same mistakes kept happening. When I tried to get him to understand that it was concerning just how expensive his mistakes were getting, he'd wave it off as it's not like we can't afford it. I love him dearly. I just miss the person he was before we had a child. The one I could trust and rely on. Did I screw this up forever? Was I being too harsh on his mistakes? Am I missing something? Am I the asshole? Relevant comments. OP on if her husband is using her money. OP. Downvoted. We do have a shared account for household expenses and bills, but he is using his own money as far as I can see. When he became a stay-at-home husband, I didn't want him to ever feel like he was financially trapped or abused. Also, the thought of my husband having to ask for money, permission to buy things for himself, or not being able to buy gifts discreetly felt ick to me. My paychecks get split between the expenses account, $300 each deposited into separate accounts the other can't see, and the rest to savings. To me, it's his money to save or spend how he wants. I read through all the responses and have removed the allocation to his account. I also removed his name as an authorized user on the bills expenses account. Before our daughter was born, this did seem the fairest, because he was managing the household tasks and maintenance. But I understand everyone's frustration at me since the arrangement is no longer fair or equitable. I can't cancel his card because my name isn't on that account at all, but I have put a stop to this Fridays and all future deposits. OP on if her husband contributed to anything before their daughter's birth and afterwards. OP. Before our daughter was born, he was contributing and I valued him for it. He cooked most of our meals, did the daily cleaning chores like dishes, wiping counters, and cat litter scooping. We did bi-weekly grocery trips and bulk store runs together, but one-offs during the week he would handle. He also helped me hit the ground running with scrambled eggs and coffee in bed so I could take my heart medication. I never had to run the laundry or consider taking the heavier pain meds to get through folding and hanging everything. He still mostly does these, minus breakfast. Dishes sometimes sit overnight due to his streaming, but I also attribute it to our toddler wanting each part of her meal in a different small bowl and our dishwasher can only fit so many of the IKEA kids' bowls. He does the daily things like dishes, scooping cat litter, wiping counters, getting trash out, cleaning random messes that occur, etc., plus laundry, yard work. We pay for a weekly cleaner so we don't run into the issue of deferred cleaning. We're neglecting the house for a few days. Illness, doctor visits, family visiting, local outings, etc. doesn't ever turn into a, there's too much to catch up on, OMG, where do I start, freeze. I've always struggled with that in the past. And the monthly deep cleaner because it's honestly just really nice having a professional come in. Our monthly deep cleaner is also a professional organizer which has been a tremendous help with the transition from infant to toddler organization of clothing and toys. OP on her husband's qualities. OP. He's incredibly creative and we used to have so much fun working on projects together. He's a modern-day MacGyver. Give him a roll of duct tape, 2 pennies, some foam, cardboard and paint, and he can build beautiful set pieces that could be mistaken for props on Broadway. He learned how to make a mini forge from a flower pot and a makeshift lathe. He practiced until he made the ring he proposed with. Complete with my favorite gemstone, blue opal. His smile is infectious and he tells the best of horrible puns and jokes. He took cooking classes to learn how to make my favorite dishes, and made his own note card recipe book. He doesn't hesitate to belt out everything from Aqua to Backstreet Boys, Broadway show tunes, Nightwish, and everything in between. Off-key but as if the rest of the world isn't there. Play a Michael Jackson song and he's on the dance floor by the end of the first note. When I gave birth to our daughter, I didn't have hospital food as my first meal. He'd worked out an arrangement with the owner of my favorite restaurant. No matter what time of day or night, as soon as I went into labor, he would message the restaurant owner who would prepare my usual faves and personally deliver the meal to the hospital. I had no idea until it arrived and the smell hit my nose. I cried so many happy tears into my food. I love frogs. He used to take a photo of every frog he'd find in our yard. He designed and vacuum formed a sign for our house that features both of our favorite animals and says "Welcome home." If he was out, he'd send me photos of, or come home with, cute frog-themed things. On my bad pain days where I mostly rot in bed, he would bring me meals. On a wooden tray he made. It converts from a carry tray to a bed tray. He got the idea from hospital food trays. He helps me get my socks and shoes on when I just can't quite do it myself. He learned how to do a few styles of updos and how to curl and flatten hair to help me feel pretty. On days where I hate the broken body I have, he'll put my hair up and it brightens my day. That's the person I fell in love with. And so deeply missed. Some days he's that person. But more frequently now, he's not. Update. Sorry for not being so responsive. Thank you to everyone who gave feedback and suggestions and all of the messages. It's been a week. Before I get into the update, I'm going to answer some repeated questions. Skip ahead 8 paragraphs for the actual update. Why does my husband not work? He can easily find employment, but we both agreed that the pay was never worth the toxic environment of his field, unless he wanted to start his own business, which he did not. He worked in home repair and renovation. It was gross how his co-workers spoke of and treated women, female customers and co-workers alike. He saw many female co-workers be sexually harassed into quitting. He hated how gross it made him feel when sales and adjusters would take advantage of women. Yes, selling inferior and unnecessary services at a premium is a thing. If he said anything, his hours would get cut until he left. He left one job on the first day because his boss left a screaming voicemail for not selling a refrigerant service to a young black couple who didn't even need refrigerant. Yes, he's got documentation and reported multiple employers to the state labor board. And checked back. Nothing was ever done to our knowledge. He's also tried a factory job in a warehouse since leaving the trades. Both heavily penalized him for needing scheduled time off for my medical needs. There's no worker protection here for any of that until FMLA, unpaid, which takes a year to be eligible for. Yes. It is a privilege to walk away from a paying job with your middle fingers held high. I have done the same many times, but I'm happy where I'm at right now because it's the opposite of toxic. I'm thriving, and our company has a no-penalty, unlimited paid sick medical leave policy that is strictly enforced at all levels of management. Any lead who penalizes people for taking leave gets sacked. A unicorn of a company. Add in a child and short of finding another unicorn employer who won't penalize him for needing time off for me or our daughter, such as when daycare closed for a week due to an RSV outbreak, puts him out of the workforce until either I stop working or our child old enough to not need consistent monitoring. Last reason for this dynamic is that although I'm disabled, my job pays almost double the highest salary he's ever had. With no reduction in pay for needing time off. It doesn't make financial sense for us to switch who the working partner is. 2. Does my husband have a large following or make money from streaming TikTok? No. His lives have an average of 6 viewers. And his Twitch has 3 followers. When we did our taxes, he didn't get a 1099 and he showed me that he'd got all of $6 from TikTok live gifts. Nothing from Twitch. His viewer counts are about the same as at the end of last year. 3. Why do we still have a weekly housekeeper and have our daughter in summer camp and part-time daycare? I hate the dynamic of one spouse working a single job for 40 hours a week while the other juggles simultaneous domestic duties, child rearing, care, enrichment, socialization, and essentially being on call 24/7. I would not want those expectations of me and couldn't fathom putting all of it on someone I love and cherish. If my husband did all of the activities and field trips that daycare did, his evenings and weekends would be taken up by domestic duties that I would physically struggle with assisting. The weekly housekeeper helps prevent deferred cleaning paralysis, where small missed things pile up into unwieldy monster tasks and struggling with where to start. The monthly deep clean and organization has been a world of self-care as we navigated to having an infant and the transition from infant to toddler. Edited to add, our daughter started at the part-time daycare when she turned 3. Before then my partner was the primary caretaker, which made the weekly housekeeping that much more helpful in not letting things fall to disarray. 4. The allowance thing. Yes. I wanted a dynamic where my husband had his own money even if he was not working a paying job. Maybe I've been on social media too long, but I've read so many stories of non-working spouses, albeit mostly women, being financially abused or unable to leave marriages because they did not have access to money they could save up in private. Should I have stopped it sooner when our dynamic became too unbalanced? Yes. I own that. 5. As for what happens if when we divorce, the house and settlement balance is in a trust completely separated, and as far as my lawyer can tell, out of his reach. Alimony would be up for a judge to decide, but between my documentation, that his licenses or certs aren't expired, plus my continual medical costs, there's a good chance of not being obligated. Hopefully that answers most or all of the background-related questions. On to the update. Friday I finished work to the smell of food being cooked. My husband was plating dinner on the table when I left my office. He said he wanted to talk over dinner. Some people had given me a heads up that my story was on multiple TikToks, and I'm grateful because it meant being prepared for the possibility he would see it. I have feelings about my post being used for content on the very platform my child and I have been neglected for. Not good ones. He did see one. He asked if it was me and I told him the truth. Yes, I wrote it. Yes, that's how I feel. And yes, I read the comments on Reddit. And no, I won't delete or change how I write about him just because I know he can see it. I don't know how to describe his reaction, but he said he'd spent the last day reflecting on just how bad it could be, for so many medical diagnosis suggestions to be given as reason and justification. He did say that he's not ADHD. His mom was addicted to opioids and Ritalin when he was a kid, and she tried to get numerous doctors to have him diagnosed with ADHD. She had him believing he was, so he also sought out 2 opinions once he was an adult. He didn't learn about her addiction until his mid-20s. He did seek therapy once he was aware that his mom was trying to use him for pills. He said he was willing to see a psychiatrist one more time, but he doesn't think he's ADHD or autistic at all. He does think he might be depressed though. If not depressed, he will ask about some of the other medical suggestions if it will ease my worry or rule out a major problem. He did sound genuine in this, but something he said is sticking with me. He said it jokingly and apologized as soon as he saw the hurt in my eyes. That everyone saying there's something wrong in his brain must be onto something, since he chose to love and marry someone medically fragile, knowing our life together would be anything but normal. He did also admit that the night he'd left the door open, the pot on, ruined our child's favorite dish, and a cup, he'd drunk a little too much on his stream, and would monitor that more closely. He said the last few nights, he had been filling his wine bottle with grape juice so it looked like he was a jolly drinking Viking, but was actually sober. He said he would keep doing that. After dinner we went out and he surprised me by seeing the new Deadpool movie. We didn't go to our normal theater because he looked up what each theater had for limited edition popcorn buckets. I now have the baby Deadpool one that holds popcorn and a drink. We spent the next day going over the extent of how our family dynamic changed for the worse. How the little things have added up. How I see change as a part of an apology. If you verbally apologize but repeatedly do the same thing, the apology words are worthless to me. And that he didn't recognize just how frequently he was making the same similar oopsies. Sunday. We spent time talking over short and long terms. What needs to change immediately? Him scheduling his own doctor appointments. Timelines for expectations. He agreed that replacing or fixing things he caused will no longer come out of our expense account. He will pay it from his allowance account. Which we talked about. I did turn deposits back on, but only for $50 per paycheck. He suggested we keep it that way until he's paid back the cost of repairing the garage and car from earlier this year. He said it will take him far longer to undo the cost of destroying the engine to my last vehicle, but that he's going to step up and find ways to make it right. Yes. I see the red flags. Love bombing. Not knowing how frequently despite repeated talks. Thinking verbal apologies are the final step in apologizing, and not understanding that repeatedly doing the same problem thing is the same as never apologizing. And yes, I know he will read this. Do I actually think this is resolved, and we will come out of this as a perfect married couple who stays together until one of us croaks? Not really. Full offense to husband, for now. Is it a potential resolution? Maybe. But my husband is fully aware that he has a lot to make up for, a lot to fix, and a tight schedule to make it happen. And that the lesson for our daughter, later in life, is either going to be, taking real accountability can steer a wayward ship back to course. Taking accountability is the right thing to do, even if you don't get the results you wanted. Or, love alone isn't enough. TLDR. Wow, this sucks. I suck for letting it get this far. My husband sucks for what he's put us through. Life owes me a dinner date if it's gonna F me so hard. But there's a potential path forward that doesn't involve divorce. But may involve divorce. Edit to add. He finally read the post, so please read between the lines to what I'm actually saying. Last 4 words of the previous 4 paragraphs if it's not obvious. Relevant comments. Comment 1. There is some truth to his joke. Given his ability to work has been impacted due to your medical needs, neither of you seem very keen on being a partner, and given your take on alimony and money in general, I hope he looks out for his own financial interests. OP. I'm trying to be a partner. It's why I am supportive and pay for help, housekeeping, part-time daycare that is currently a full-time summer camp, as well as ensure he has his own money to spend how he wants. There is truth that my medical needs impact his ability to work, which would hurt him for alimony because he wouldn't need a unicorn job with unpenalized PTO if we aren't together. Would I still help him land semi-softly on his feet? Most likely. A judge, from what I've been told, would be less likely to obligate it. OP on needing to grow a spine and have her talks with her husband to improve things. OP. I wish I could grow a spine and replace the one being held together with duct tape, screws, rust, and vibes. I'm well aware that he's 99.9% likely in a panic, and the next month if that is going to be a refreshing, but temporary, change. Sorry people wrongly dogpiled you previously, but you are quite mistaken here for assuming I want to verify that my husband is indeed choosing to suck, is proof that I intend to continue living like this. Bunchful. Your 2 posts have a much larger following after a week that he does on all of his streaming junk combined. I have a very hard time believing he couldn't keep a job because of how toxic his work environment was. But that's just me. OP. Look, I wasn't gonna say it, but you're not wrong. The toxic work environments part is sadly very true. I've seen the evidence he collected and submitted to the labor board. At least before everything went sideways, things were really nice with him as a house husband. I'm sad he squandered it. I'll be financially able to retire in just a few years barring my career field suddenly tanking salaries though. Now to the next story. Story 2. I broke up with my fiancé. After he insisted that I forgive my bio dad, who abandoned our family when I was a child. Let me clarify that this is a throwaway account. My friends follow my personal account. Don't mind my English, I'm Argentinian. And also, I would like to make things short, but I'm afraid that it's pretty impossible, since I'm going to have to give a lot of context. So basically I, 28F now, and my twin brother Leo, 28M, were raised by my mother alone in our childhood. She was married to my dad, but divorced him when she found out he was cheating, and he just disappeared and didn't even pay child support when we were 4 years old. My mom raised us alone and grew up with abusive parents. She was a teacher and did her best to take care of us, and she was and still is simply the best mom you could ask for. Never abusive or unfair, never showed any favoritism, she was always interested in us and was the perfect combination of a fun, but responsible parent. As a result, my brother and I decided to do our best not to generate any problems for her. We did our best in school, didn't generate troubles and did all our chores. My mom started dating our stepdad, Carlos, who was her high school sweetheart when we were 11. And this guy was always the father we never had, and loved us like their own. They also had our little sister Virginia, and we have been a big happy family. Now our dad tried to reach us several times. But after a few disappointments, Leo and I decided to cut him off and appreciate that we had a great man like Carlos in our lives, who swore to us that he would never go away. Back to the present, I had been dating my now ex-fiancé Jonathan, 30 mem, for 3 years. We had been engaged for a couple of months and living together and everything seemed perfect, except one thing. He sometimes would try to convince me to forgive my father and to invite him to our wedding. He knows everything that happens, but he's still insisting on the fact that he's family, and I should forgive him. But I drew the line when he invited his parents and tried to intervene. I had to hold my anger as I heard all their bullshit, and I was about to snap, but I forced myself to calm down. I simply took off my ring, left it at the table, and said that we were done for good. They were all shocked, and I stood up, grabbed my phone and called my ex-boyfriend from high school, Lucas, 28M, and explained what happened to him and asked for some help to go back to my hometown. Lucas and I dated for 4 years. From 14 to 18 and broke up due to distance. We have been friends since we were 6 years old, so he was with me through all the disappointments that my bio dad gave me. We're still friends and see each other when we go back home and often call each other. He was angry, and told me he would be there right away. The town it's only an hour away from the city I was living in. I started to pack my stuff, while he and his parents kept trying to make me change my mind. But I just ignored and called my mom and brother to tell them the wedding was off, and that I would be going back home for a while. They kept telling me I was exaggerating, that I was choosing wrong, but I just packed everything I own, and Lucas showed up pretty quick. Of course my ex-fiancé was mad that I had called my ex-boyfriend, but I didn't care and Lucas and I just went back home. Luckily, I work from home, so I don't have any problem moving whenever I want. I can work from anywhere. I decided to let all my close circle know what had happened right away, and they are all on my side. I arrived in my hometown, and my stepdad, mom and little sister received me with a lot of love, and told me I needed to do what felt right and not to force myself into a marriage if my fiancé can't even respect my boundaries and invalidates my feelings. Lucas said that I deserve someone better, and to try to focus on moving on. However, Jonathan's friends and family are still berating me for breaking up with him in front of his parents and leaving with my ex just like that. But in my defense he didn't give me a choice. Part of me is thinking they're only doing it because of his family and friends, but part of me is starting to believe that maybe I handled things wrong. I don't regret breaking up with him, it hurts, but it just feels better like this. But maybe I was too harsh. I don't know, am I the asshole? Update. I doubt anyone will read this, but here's an update. I would like to thank everyone who commented. I wasn't able to see the comments until like a week later due to some problems I had with my phone, and it seemed pretty pointless to reply after so long. But thanks for the advice, I appreciate it. So, it's been over 3 months since I posted, 4 since I broke up with my ex-fiancée. A lot has happened ever since. After the first month, I thought my ex had given up, but he tried hard to find me through all our contacts. Finally, one mutual friend told him where I was and he showed up at my house. My stepdad threatened to call the police if he didn't leave, and he did, but told my stepdad he wouldn't stop trying until he could talk to me. I wasn't home at the time, and I chose to talk to him. I decided to call him and make things clear to him. I didn't think it was necessary, but I did think maybe he thought we still had a chance. So I called him and I told him that we were done and that wouldn't change, and I didn't care what reasons he had to do what he did. I was clear about the situation with my bio dad and he completely ignored my feelings and thoughts when it wasn't his business, and that someone like him, who thinks he's always right, is not someone to be trusted. Then I just cut the phone call. Some people in the comments kept asking why he would do this, and I think that's because of 2 reasons. The first one is that his mindset is that family is family, and no matter what, you need to always be there for them. As you can guess, I don't agree with that at all. I think family is the people you choose, and no person is worthy of being in your life just because they are your own blood. And I think like this for a long while now, and it's what helped me get through everything. Also, he was the type of person who thinks the best thing is to forgive, to be okay with yourself, to be at peace. And well, that's bullshit for me. I don't think that's necessary at all, and I think you can move on from something without forgiving anyone who screwed you up. Some people also thought that I needed to go to therapy to deal with this. The truth is that I went to therapy for a while for this and multiple other problems, and I'm at peace with it. I don't think about it, but I do know that I don't want him in my life, and that's my choice and no one else's. Now, many asked why I asked my ex to come pick me up, and the truth is pretty simple. I trust Lucas with my life, but besides that, he's tall and a boxer, and well, I knew that there were chances of everything going to shit and that things could get violent, or at least I was scared of it, and that's why I called Lucas. I once had another situation with another guy I went out with for like a month. He got violent, and I called Lucas to help me. Like I said in the post, we were friends before dating, and now it's kinda confusing. I'm not the kind to jump from one relationship to another, and that's why I avoided seeing Lucas personally, because I was starting to feel confused with my feelings towards him. I took my time to process the breakup, and 2 weeks ago I met with him to talk and told him what was happening to me. He said he was going through something similar, and we agreed to give it another shot. We're still seeing each other, but it's pretty clear to me that my feelings are even stronger than I thought. Anyway, hopefully this will be my first and last update, but you never know. I heard that my ex is still trying to contact me, but I'm just ignoring it for now. If things get messy, I'll see what I'll do then. I had a baby as a result of an affair and now his wife is reaching out to me. I'm so stupid. I, female 26, had an affair with a married man, male 42 a few years ago. I had no clue he was married when we first met and hooked up. I obviously looked him up on social media, and while he did have photos of his kids on there was absolutely no mention or photos of a wife at all. I found out that he was married about a month after we first got together, but he told me it was just a marriage on paper and that they basically lived separate lives and agreed to remain married for practical purposes until the kids were older. They owned a business, which she really ran and he was just financially involved in. I knew at the time that I probably shouldn't believe him, but I convinced myself it was true. I was in my early 20s and so attracted to him and I guess almost infatuated with him. He made me feel so good. I know now that I should have ended it immediately, but I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. I was addicted to all of the attention he gave me, the great sex, the places he'd take me. I felt special. I was so naive. I got pregnant about a year into seeing him. I had always been so careful with preventing pregnancy, but during my relationship with him I took stupid risks. I was so high in lust with this guy, it's embarrassing. The things he'd asked me to do, I'd say yes to almost anything, even when I knew it was a bad idea. I was in love with him, or I thought I was. I hadn't intentionally wanted to get pregnant. I would of course dream about being his wife and having a family, but I knew that wouldn't be a possibility while he had this arrangement with his actual wife. I didn't get pregnant on purpose with any intention of him leaving her for me, even if I wished that we could be a real, normal couple. I was surprised by how excited I was to be pregnant with his baby. I wanted that baby once I found out I was pregnant. The thought of carrying this baby of the man I loved was so special to me, but I knew he probably wouldn't feel the same. I told him I was pregnant and he told me I couldn't keep the baby. I expected his reaction, but I was devastated and it hurt me to my core that he didn't feel the same way I did. He offered to pay, to make a whole weekend of it somewhere exciting, what the F, and to buy me something special if I'd just please get rid of the baby. He explained that he didn't want any more kids and that he couldn't openly be a father to another kid when he and his wife were still pretending to be happily married to the outside world. I agreed to do what he wanted and we made plans for him to pick me up and find somewhere out of town to go get it done. I was all packed the night he was going to pick me up, but I started to feel really scared and really unsafe about the whole thing. I took my bag and checked myself into a hotel to hide because I couldn't go with him. I texted him to say I promised to never contact him again and to never name him as the father or go after child support if he'd promised to leave me alone. At first he tried to sweet talk me into doing what he wanted. When I didn't cave in, he said some very nasty things to me and that I essentially better never contact him again or show up at his door. I have a 2-year-old now. At times, it's been difficult, but overall we are thriving as best we can. I have kept my word about not naming him as the father or requesting child support. His wife contacted me on social media. Well, she's his ex-wife now. She wants to talk to me. She found out about me and told me that she divorced him 6 months ago. She wants her children to know their siblings and for my child to know his siblings. That's weird to me. I haven't responded back to her yet. I am unsure about how to approach this. How do I respond to this? I wonder if I'm being selfish by not exploring an option for my child to know his siblings, if she's being genuine about that. If I was married and my husband fathered a child outside of our marriage, I don't think I'd feel the same that she does. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I didn't know he was married when we first got together. I acknowledge that I should have ended the relationship as soon as I found out he was married. I allowed myself to believe what he told me, which made it seem not so bad. Like this was some sort of agreement he and his wife had. Emotionally, I was already hooked. I'm not making excuses. I wouldn't say I was happy to bring a baby into this situation. There was a huge mix of emotions. I felt like I was in love with him, so there was a part of me that was excited at first. That feeling soon died, but I still felt that I loved my baby still. I tried to do the best thing that I could, which was to remove myself from his life and his family's life. I just wanted to be able to keep my baby and love my baby. I did not get pregnant on purpose. I wasn't on birth control. I had been on birth control when I was slightly younger and had life-threatening health complications as a result. He knew I wasn't on birth control. He loved unprotected sex. I was stupid and I agreed to do it. I would do almost anything he asked sexually. I tried to track my cycle and would tell him when it was probably not a safe time to do it. His wife isn't really what I'm afraid of. Whatever she'd want to say to me is probably deserved anyway, and more. Comment 2. He found out about the pregnancy before I ghosted him. And upon finding out I was pregnant with his child, there was absolutely no real discussion about what we were going to do. We were going to do what he wanted to do and he had it all planned out. He threatened me, by text and by phone calls and voicemails, when I told him I was not going to go with him on this abortion vacation he had planned. I begged him to please not force me to do that and he turned mean. I offered to never contact him again if he'd just let me go. After threatening me again, about what he'd do if I didn't keep my word, he agreed. He has kept his side of the bargain and has never contacted me. Comment 3. I've been assuming that she found out about me on her own. Maybe saw something on his phone or computer and has probably known for a while before reaching out to me, if it's actually her. I get what some people are saying about siblings and such, but that man is not my child's dad. He is the dad of his older kids, but he's not the dad of my kid. I'm still young and I hope to have more children one day, and those children would be my son's siblings. I hope to find a man who loves me and my son and with whom I can have a legitimate relationship. I haven't been with another man since I ended things with this guy. I actually just went on 2 dates for the first time very recently. I'm not desperate to find a man right now, but I hope to find real love one day. Those people are not my son's family. He's 2 and they're old enough to drive. So I don't think they're missing out on any sort of important relationship right now. I understand wanting to know your bio family, and I feel he can decide that later on when he's old enough to have a day. Depending on where we are in our lives at the time, he might not feel a need to know those people. I don't plan to lie to my son about his conception, but I don't think we need to involve ourselves with the man's ex-wife and teenage children at this time. Update 1. I made a post 3 weeks ago and things have only gotten stranger. I had an affair with a married man a few years ago. I regret it and I will never do anything like that ever again. I knew it was wrong from the very beginning, but he captivated me. I was naive. I allowed myself to believe when he told me they were pretty much just married on paper for the sake of their kids. I got pregnant, and while he tried to talk me into getting an abortion, I ultimately decided to keep the baby. I have a 2-year-old little boy now. I promised this man that I wouldn't expose our affair and I wouldn't formally identify him as the father or request child support. I did that because he was becoming very nasty about the whole thing, and I felt like due to the mess that I had created and the way I felt by the end of it, a clean break with no involvement with him would be the best thing for everyone. I moved back to where my family is, hundreds of miles from where he and his family live. About a month ago, his ex-wife reached out to me via social media, claiming they had been divorced for 6 months and that she wanted our children to be able to know each other. Now their kids are teenagers, so I didn't really think they'd want anything to do with the toddler and the woman their father was having an affair with. It seemed odd to me. After posting here, I sort of decided that I wouldn't respond to her. I'd just ignore it. She just sent me one message, so it wasn't as if she was badgering me about talking to me or meeting me. On Friday night, I decided to message her. I don't really know why. I think it was really just for my sake, so I could have the chance to apologize to her. I told her that I would be more comfortable speaking with her face to face since I couldn't trust that it was really her. She said she understood. I was too nervous to meet her in person, but we did a video chat. I didn't know what to expect, if this was all a ploy just to unleash her fury on me or what. I mean, I deserve that. She wouldn't be wrong to feel that way. It was really her. She told me she discovered our affair when she found communications between the two of us, after our relationship had ended. She told me I'm one of many women he had affairs with over the years, and she knew about somebody even before he met me, but she didn't divorce him at the time. Finding out about my child was the final straw for her. I told her I was sorry for my relationship with her husband and admitted that I knew he was married. She graciously told me she forgives me and that while she harbored a lot of anger towards me initially, she ultimately blames her husband. I'm not blameless, but she chooses to not hate me, essentially. She said she couldn't have said this 6 months ago or a year ago when she first found out about me, but she has moved past that. She still has anger toward him, in addition to many other emotions surrounding him. She started pouring out her heart to me about their 20-plus year marriage and life together, and it was very awkward because what do I even say? Her kids know about me and my son. She says they're very mad at their father. Somehow I don't think they're mad about the fact that he's not involved with my son's life. And why would they be mad about that? I would hate myself if I were them. I told her that with my son being so little right now, I don't really feel comfortable with him meeting her kids or being involved with their family. I feel unsure about it, and it's just not something I feel needs to happen right now. Then she told me her ex-husband was in a bad accident 2 months ago. He's fine now, still not allowed to return to all his normal activities just yet, but will be fine. He is probably the most physically active person I've ever met, barely ever seems to sit down. So he must be terribly annoying to be around if he's not allowed to go all the time. She told me he wants to meet my son. Apparently she moved back in with him temporarily when he first came home from the hospital. She said the accident really shook him up and he has been expressing a lot of regret about my son, not being involved, not providing for him. So now it's like, was everything she said just a lie and he somehow got her to reach out to me on his behalf? And she actually did it? It felt almost like a relief talking to her initially. But then it's like, was any of that true, or you were just trying to be his messenger? I don't even know if that part is true now. Why wouldn't he just contact me himself? I'm just feeling so uneasy about the whole thing now. Relevant comments. Comment 1: I don't believe I have to involve his teenage children in my son's life. Maybe when my son is old enough to decide if he wants that. He is not named on the birth certificate and I do not receive child support from him. I have asked nothing of him, except to let me move away and not try to force me to have an abortion. I basically had to promise him to not contact him, not make him as the father, not request child support. If he truly wants involvement with my son, he can reach out to me directly and he can take the legal route to establish himself as our son's father. Comment 2. He did not legally sever his rights. He never established rights in the first place. He has no rights until he goes to court and establishes himself as the father. He is welcome to do that. Honestly, I wish my son did have a father who was involved in his life and loved him. Yes, this guy has faults, but he has plenty of positive qualities. He is really involved with his older children. I met them many times because they'd be at work with him or he'd have to drop by the office on his way to take them somewhere. He was always doing things with them. They seemed like good kids who really loved their dad. I wish my son could have that experience too. I didn't think it was an option based on how he behaved when I was pregnant. He wasn't interested and wanted me and our baby to go away. That's what I did, and I accepted it. Comment 3. He is not legally my son's father at this time. This means that currently he has no legal parental rights or responsibilities regarding my son. I cannot stop him from taking the legal steps to establish paternity if he wishes to do so. He will always be my son's biological father. I can't change that fact. Regardless of whether or not he ever legally establishes paternity, my son will likely be curious about his biological father, and who knows, maybe they will establish a relationship one day regardless of legal paternity. There is no way to say if I will meet a man who may want to adopt my son one day, thus becoming his legal father. It's something that I think would be nice, but nothing that I'm intent on doing. By choice, I've only been on 2 dates since my son was born, and that was only within the year 2024. I realize that it will not be as simple as signing a piece of paper. Update 2. I posted about this a few months ago. To summarize very quickly, when I was fresh out of college, I had an affair with a married man and father. I became pregnant. He wanted me to get an abortion. He had arranged to take me away on a vacation to get an abortion. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I agreed to go along with what we wanted. At the last minute, when he was on his way to come pick me up, I told him I couldn't go through with the abortion. I just really didn't feel comfortable about his plan and how he was orchestrating everything. It scared me. I realized at that time how deep I had gone with this mistake, how screwed up the whole relationship was. He was really mad. He threatened me, said a lot of nasty things to me. I told him if he just left me alone and let me have my baby, then I'd leave him alone and wouldn't name him as the father or seek child support. I moved back home. I was living in a different state when I met him. I kept my word and I didn't name him as the father or seek to establish paternity. I have never sought child support. My child is 2 now. A few months ago his wife contacted me via social media. At first she made it seem like she wanted my child to have the opportunity to know his siblings. It was sort of weird since the siblings are teenagers. She said she had divorced him 6 months prior. I agreed to talk to her virtually, not in person. I felt that I owed it to her to apologize for what I had done. I do feel bad about it. But at the end of the conversation I told her that I didn't feel it was the appropriate time to connect my son with her kids. He's a toddler and in their teens, plus I had promised her husband to stay out of his life. That's when she told me that he was recently in a bad accident and she had been helping to take care of him. Supposedly he was going to be fine and was fairly recovered at that point, but she said he had expressed interest to meet our child. So she was basically his messenger. I have not been in contact with her since then. I deleted my social media. I don't know why, but the whole thing just really made me uncomfortable. Since I last posted here. Then I received a handwritten letter from him. In it, he expressed how he wanted to get to know our son, he wants to be a father to our son, he wants to provide financially for him, he'd like us to come visit him. He asked me to sign a paternity affidavit. I refused to do so. I know he is my son's father, but I'm not going to make this that easy for him. After the things he said to me and threatened me with, he at least has to work for this. At that point, my parents felt that we needed to meet with a lawyer. All communication from me has gone through a lawyer. I have never responded to him personally, directly. Now I have a court order for paternity. I have to present my son to have a specimen taken tomorrow. I already know what it's going to say. It's not that I don't want my son to have a dad in his life. It's just, the whole situation is a mess. And he lives a few states away from me. I don't know what to do. I can't really do anything. He's doing things legally. Next, I'm sure he'll petition for some form of custody or visitation. He's not married anymore, supposedly, but he's a lot more established than I am. He has considerably more financial resources. I also know he has all sorts of connections where he lives. Luckily, they don't hold as much weight here in my state, but it's still so scary to me. I'm a bad mom. I brought my son into this world knowing it was a messy situation. I just got so comfortable with it just being the 2 of us, and now I don't want to give that up. Relevant comments OP on if the father would be moving closer to her and her son now that he's divorced from his ex-wife. OP answer, to touch on just a few things. I don't think he'll move away from where he lives. He has way too much established there. He's in his early 40s. I don't know how this supposed accident, if that even really happened, has affected him, but he was incredibly physically active when I knew him. He only slept like 4 hours a night, took a 20-minute power nap daily, and rarely ever sat down. He was also highly involved in his children's lives. I'd even say overprotective, like a helicopter dad instead of the typical helicopter mom. Careless_welder_4048, how did he have time to cheat? OP answer, he only slept a few hours a night and moved at about 1,000,000 miles a minute. Everyone joked about it. Somehow he always had time to get up at 5 a.m., go surfing, do some work, take his kids to school, do some work, take his power nap, get coffee, pick his kids up after school and take them wakeboarding or some other sort of thing like that, do some more work, be at his kids' basketball game and so on and so forth. He literally never ever stopped. I was just another thing to help fill out his calendar to prevent him from getting bored. OP on the father's relationship with his ex-wife and their children. OP answer. I also don't think he and his wife had much of a relationship, although it wasn't quite as he described it to me. They lived in the same house, but I believe they lived pretty separate lives. He bought her a business to give her something to do and keep her busy. She was there most of the time. They didn't even go to their kids' activities together. He was always the one going. So I think that freed up time too. I don't think they liked being around each other, so she was happy to have him out of the house. She admitted to me that I wasn't the first affair he had and she knew about most of the time we were together. Another update on how stupid I am, or I had a baby as a result of an affair and now his wife is reaching out to me. I won't rehash the whole thing here. My previous posts are on my profile. I got pregnant from an affair with a married guy. He wanted me to have an abortion. I decided I didn't want one. He turned mean. I promised to not name him as the father, legally, or to pursue any sort of child support. I moved away from where he and his family were located. I'm about 12 hours away from him now, back where my family is from. I haven't reached out to him in over 3 years since. His ex-wife reached out to me out of the blue via social media, initially claiming she wanted to connect with me so that our kids could know each other. When I politely declined for the time being, as her kids are teenagers and my son is a toddler and we live states apart, she revealed she was really reaching out on behalf of her ex-husband who had supposedly had a change of heart about being involved in our child's life after nearly dying in an accident. I did not engage with her any further after that. It all made me feel very uncomfortable. Later, I received a letter from him in the mail. He asked to be involved with our son, to provide for him, etc. It still felt weird. I mean, he turned really mean and didn't want anything to do with me or our baby and hadn't made any attempt to contact me in years, and I was not hiding. His wife was obviously able to find me on social media and you can find my address online. I felt like if he was serious, he'd take the steps to establish paternity legally. And that's what he did. Around 1.5 months ago we were ordered to submit DNA samples for a paternity test. It took around 5 weeks to find out what I already knew it'd say. But now things are stalled for another several weeks for the next step in the court process. I haven't talked to him at all during this whole thing. I didn't respond directly to his letter. I do have a lawyer and everything is basically going through him now. Then without any warning, he just showed up at my home last weekend. Just knocked on the door like it was nothing. Basically, this is his son and he doesn't want to wait another 6 weeks for the court to inevitably order us into some sort of custody mediation anyway. His words. Why can't I just talk to him? I told him he made me uncomfortable and him just showing up at my house really made me uncomfortable. Honestly, I don't know what made me so uncomfortable. The fact that he showed up unannounced like that, or the fact that I instantly felt the same attraction to him that I had when I was with him and I didn't want to feel that at all. In some weird way part of me felt happy to see him and then another part of me was disgusted that I was happy. He said he doesn't understand why we can't just talk about this. He's not trying to take my son away from me. He just wants to be involved in his life and to help provide for him like he should have been all along. He's sorry he wasn't there when he was born. He's sorry he reacted the way that he did when I didn't go along with his plans to take me on an abortion vacation. Why can't I believe that he just wants to be a dad to his kid? I guess I agree with him. Why can't I just accept that he has had a change of heart? I can't trust myself. I can't trust my own judgment. I feel like if I easily let him into my son's life, I'm going to end up regretting it and be made a fool of somehow. I've already made so many mistakes when it comes to him. He says it's stupid of me to not try to work it out amongst ourselves first. I'm giving so much control to the court. I don't know whether to believe that or to think it's just his way of convincing me to do what he wants. I know he will get some sort of visitation and eventual custody. Maybe it would be better if we try to come to an agreement, but he had the ability to sway me so easily. I'm so stupid when it comes to him. Nobody else has ever made me feel so foolish in my life. I want my son to have a dad. I admit it's probably selfish of me to want to keep him away. I just keep imagining having to spend weeks or months apart from my child while he's living with his dad 12 hours away and I can't stand the thought of it. I'm just feeling sad, stupid, and defeated. Relevant comments. OP on if the father is actually divorced from his wife. OP answer, I checked the county records and they did actually get divorced. Mammoth_Mite 8171. At this point you need to trust your lawyer. Hopefully he is a good one. Make sure that your lawyer has all the facts, including how poorly he treated you when he found out you were pregnant. Do not communicate any more with your ex, especially since you know that you're incapable of making good decisions when he is involved. You may need to prepare yourself mentally that your ex is eventually going to play a role in your kid's life, as much as that sucks. Hopefully you can go after him for back child support. OP answer. My lawyer has any and all information that I possibly had to share. I am already preparing myself that he will likely have a role in my child's life. I mean, the change will be difficult for me and I honestly don't want anything to change. But I'm trying to focus on any shred of positive outcome this could have for my son. He deserves a dad. I wish it wasn't in this situation. I wish I had given him 2 loving parents in a stable relationship, the ideal. I wish I had at least given him a father who didn't live states away. I feel bad that my son has 2 lying cheaters for parents. I truly do feel so embarrassed about our behavior in a new way I did before, ever since my son was born. Other than that whole thing and the fact that he's apparently had affairs with multiple women according to his ex-wife, he actually seems like a good dad to his teenage kids. He was always very involved with them. I guess I'm just trying to cling to whatever positive things I can think of. He can also provide a lot more financially than I currently can. That's scary for me because I'm already turning it into some sort of competition between us in my head. Several points for him, none for me. Plus my son is also very shy. He doesn't do well if me or one of my parents isn't there with him. I'm just now getting him involved in more activities with other kids and safe, trusted adults, but he still just clings to me. My heart breaks when I think of him meeting a strange man he doesn't know and me not being there. I want to be there. Plus I think that's how things normally go for him, and to be perfectly honest that's how I used to be for him too. Just go along with what he wants. He was obviously expecting me when he showed up in person. He genuinely seemed surprised I didn't cave into his request right on the spot. The previous version of me probably would have. OP on how the father managed to find her address. OP answer. He sent me a letter in the mail previously. I googled myself and my address came up easily. Admittedly, I made no effort to hide myself after moving away. I didn't think I needed to. He had no interest in being involved with our baby and I promised to never contact him again. So I thought that was the end of it. His ex-wife told me he was in a bad accident when I talked to her. It's not too surprising based on his hobbies. He lives at like 200 miles per minute. According to her, she had to move back into their house to take care of him while he recovered. When he showed up here, he didn't look like somebody who had been in a life-threatening accident not too terribly long ago. He told me he's fully recovered and although he'll probably have back issues the rest of his life he's perfectly fine. OP on having a visitation plan with the father for her son. OP answer. My lawyer says that other than creating a graduated visitation plan based on the fact that my son doesn't know this man, the fact that he hasn't been involved in his child's life for the last 3 years won't mean much to the court. Their ultimate goal is for a child to have 2 parents. I screwed myself over by not naming him as the father at birth or trying to establish paternity in any way. Had I done that and he fought it, neglected to pay court-ordered child support, etc., then we could have a better case as far as abandonment goes. He is putting in the effort to establish paternity now, is willing to pay child support, so he says, and is presumably going to tell the court he wants to see his kid and this is going to reflect positively for him, despite not being involved for 3 years. New update. Since everyone got mad at me for posting a recap of my situation in my previous posts, I won't even go there. If you're interested in the backstory, you can read my previous posts. All I will say is that I have a 3-year-old son who was conceived in an affair I had with a married man. After initially making me promise to not contact him, to not name him as the father, and to not request child support, my child's father has been pursuing involvement in our son's life over the last several months. He lives states away and most recently he showed up at my house to try to convince me to work things out directly with him. Since the last time I posted, we've recently had a mediation session and he's met our son twice. At this time, he will have supervised visitation, with me present. Because he lives states away, he is required to come here to see our son. It will not be on a weekly basis due to the travel. He will see him during 2 weeks of the month, 2 times each week, for a total of 4 visits a month plus 2 video calls a month. This will last for 6 months. The next step will be for him to continue that schedule, but to have unsupervised visitation during which he cannot remove him from the area, for another 6 months. After a year, we agreed to have another mediation session to determine next steps, with the goal, his goal, of being able to have my son at his home for short overnights. I'm not even ready to discuss that. He's already suggesting I can come for the first few times. I don't like the sound of it at all. We also have the option to request another mediation before 1 year, and something tells me he's going to pull that. I also have an order for child support. While he is in agreement with paying child support, it will have to work through the court system before becoming official and for me to start getting the regular payment. He wrote me a large check in the meantime. I was hesitant to accept it. Not that I don't think my son deserves it, but now I'm just always worried I'll say or do the wrong thing legally, completely unknowingly, and shoot myself in the foot. Like, am I obligating myself and my son to anything by accepting this check? Can he somehow spin this against me? Of course he was not in favor of the 6-month plan, and while he does understand that my son should not just go off with a stranger upon first meeting him, he wishes we could speed it along a little more, but 6 months was what we were able to agree on. He wanted to fly us both to where he lived so he could spend a week or two getting to know our son, but I don't feel that's appropriate at this time. Perhaps in a few months, or around the holidays, depending on how things are going. It would be too much too soon. The initial 2 meetings went pretty much just as I thought they would. My son is extremely shy. He wanted to hide behind me most of the time. Then when he would venture out from behind me, as soon as his dad would say anything to him, he would scurry back behind me and just stare at his dad blankly without saying anything. He came out of his shell a little bit, however he has still not said a single word to his dad. He just pretends like his dad isn't there and only talks to me. I will say that his dad is being patient and understanding as far as that goes. If he's frustrated, he's not showing it. He did suggest that maybe our son needs to get out more, go to daycare more of even preschool instead of spending so much time with me and my parents. He's very delighted with how much our son looks like him and how much he favors him over me. The one thing that did bother me is that I already told him I wanted to be very careful and mindful of how we informed our son, this little barely 3-year-old boy, that this man complete stranger is his dad. He said sure, yeah. Then at the first meeting he introduced himself as dad. Since then I've been trying to help my son understand. Like, you know how your grandpa is my daddy, this guy is your daddy. It's so surreal to me that any of this is happening. I feel like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm waiting for something to blow up in my face. Now it's just working on accepting our new reality. All of this change is hard and confusing for my son, and it's hard for me. Unless he really fucks up, I'm looking at eventually shared times with my son, spending school breaks and holidays at his dad's house, hours and hours away in another state. It won't happen tomorrow, but it will happen in the most likely reality. I just hope he stays committed. If he can be a good dad to my child, then my child deserves that, no matter how sad sharing him makes me. If he breaks my son's heart, that'll be another story, and I won't accept that so readily. Relevant comments. OP on the times when her son has to go visit his father and what the courts are deciding on. OP answer: they haven't ordered him to visit his father in his state, but eventually, that will probably happen. Talking elementary school age. Worldly promise 675. I hope it all works out as well as it can given the circumstances. Your son and his well-being is definitely top priority. The baby daddy seems really pushy and doesn't like boundaries, so it does not seem he's changed much. OP answer: he's used to getting his way. I'm doing my best to not just roll over but also learn to compromise. Imalela: are you concerned that he may also try to push the idea of reconciling romantically? It sounds like you are focused on your son and he's focused on getting his way. OP answer: I don't know. He hasn't really given me that impression. He's given me compliments. He's tried reminding me of some of the good times we had together. But I see that as all part of his schmoozing to just get me to do what he wants, not to get back together with me. OP on getting a therapist for her son. OP answer: yes, I'm working on finding a therapist for him. I realize I should have started that process before this all went into action. My husband is cheating on me with my best friend, betraying both our marriage and my trust in the most painful way. I'm honestly not sure where to start, so I guess I'll just start. My husband and I have been dating since I was 19 and he was 22. We've been married for 6 years now. We have 2 kids and I'm 6 months pregnant with our third. 2 years ago I found out my dad has stage 3 colon cancer. My dad is my only parent as my mom passed away when I was 12. He's my favorite human and life without him doesn't seem as colorful. His laugh is contagious and he gives these big bear hugs that seem to make all of your broken pieces feel like they're perfectly in place again. Whenever I've had a hard day he doesn't poke and prod and just lets me vent and listens. About 5 months ago we discovered the treatments aren't working for him, and in direct quote from the doctor he said months not years. Since then he's gotten progressively worse and now is losing memory. He looked at the dog he got for me on my 21st birthday and said, "Wow, that's a nice dog. Where'd you get it?" My husband has been my absolute rock. He has been there for me, holding my hand and helping me through this. He's been so loving and attentive to both my kids and I. Don't get me wrong, I am a mother first always. I don't allow myself to wallow. My kids are still loved, cared for, played with, and I haven't let my load slack around the house. Once my dad got his updated prognosis, my husband encouraged me to quit my job. About a month later we discovered we were pregnant again and I still hadn't let go of my job. I kept holding out for some reason. After finding out I was pregnant again, he assured me it was still okay to quit my job, that honestly it would save us a small fortune on daycare costs anyways. So I did, I quit my job. My best friend and I have been friends since diapers. Her family is like my family and vice versa. My mom and her mom grew up together. We've always been solid, and right after my dad's appointment, when we found out he had so little time left, I drove straight to her house and she held me while I cried for hours. If there are soulmates in friend form, she was mine. Thick as thieves, is what my mom used to say. This morning as I was up with my 3-year-old, he's sick, my husband's work alarm was going off. He has a few he sets, so I turned that one off and gently woke him up. He said he was up late working, so he took the morning off. Rolled over and went back to sleep. As I went to turn off the remainder of his alarms, I saw a text from my friend on his lock screen that said, "I'm assuming since there hasn't been an angry pregnant lady on my doorstep you haven't told her about us yet?" Time froze at that moment. I took his phone and walked away and just read their conversations. 4 months this man has been fucking my best friend. 4 months these people have been lying to my face. And I know what you're going to say, you should have seen the warning signs. But I've been clutching this phone in my hand for 2 hours and nothing. He has been so loving and attentive to me, but he always has been. So kind and gentle. There have been no late night work nights except for once in a blue moon. There has been no lingering touches between them or even glances. They act as they have since the day I first introduced them. How sick is it that she calls him her brother but she screws him? I know so many people get a moment of clarity in situations like this, but I have none. Aside from being sad about my dad, I haven't changed. I'm still a loving wife and mother. I still doted on him and my children. I talk to him about how he is doing and how his day is every freaking day. I haven't allowed the ground to swallow me whole. I know what I have to do now, but I just don't want to. I'm about to lose my family and my support system in one blow. I'll confront him tomorrow. Today I just need this last 24 hours of peace. As for her, I won't give her the satisfaction of a response. I don't care why she did it. She did it and it's done. I was always the friend who cleaned up her messes. After today I will cut her out of my life like she never mattered at all. This has to be the hardest storm I'll ever weather, but damn it, I know it'll sail through it. If not for me, for my children. Update 1. A small update about everything going on since my kids are now in bed for the night. I spent the morning gathering everything I could and making a checklist. I sat in my office for the better part of the morning telling my husband that I was preparing things for my dad. Not a total lie. I did have to get him sorted with hospice today. My boss would be happy to have me back, however my lawyer said pump the brakes on that idea for the time being. However, my old boss did tell me that whenever I'm ready, the door is open and to just give her a call. He does not have access to my inheritance from my father, nor my mother. My lawyer assured me that. I didn't mention her in the post, but my mother-in-law is an absolute angel. I love and adore her so much, and she's always been a shoulder to lean on. After he had gone to work for the afternoon, I asked my now ex-best friend's mom and my mother-in-law to meet me at my dad's house. My kids were outside playing with my now ex-BFF's older brother. I just handed them the screenshots, saving them from the unsavory pictures and sex tape, though I did tell them it existed. To say they were furious was an understatement, and they are on my side completely. Angie, my now ex-BFF's mom, is ready to cut contact with her daughter completely. She kept repeating how sorry she was. We hugged and cried together. My mother-in-law told me she couldn't believe she raised a spineless, terrible human. That no matter what happens I will always have her, and as far as she's concerned she doesn't have a son, only a daughter. After an in-person meeting with my lawyer we went over finances, logistics, and everything you could think of. She has all of the proof and she's out for blood. With this post now on TikTok, I don't want him to find out by an app, because one look at the story and he'd know it was about him. With permission from my lawyer. My ex-BFF, her mom and dad, my soon-to-be ex and his parents will be having a get-together tomorrow. By the time they're sitting down and showing them everything and that I know. My dad, my kids, and my ex-BFF's brother, he's coming to help me juggle the kids, and my dad, being big and pregnant doesn't help with mobility. We'll be at my dad's cabin a few hours away enjoying time and space. I know a lot of people were hoping for me to get revenge or do psychological warfare, but honestly, after my kids went to bed, I took a shower and just broke. I don't have the strength or energy to dish anything out. I just want out. Pretending like everything was okay today was too exhausting and I just don't want to do it. Once he finds out tomorrow, I'll update with the aftermath, as I'm sure it will be huge. As for now, thank you all so much for your kindness, warmth and support. Truly. Your words have helped give me the strength to keep my head above water. I appreciate every single last one of you for everything. Update 2. For my typing's sake, I'm going to give everyone fake names, so for context, mother-in-law and father-in-law, Ruth and Joe, ex-best friend forever parents. Angie and Bob, ex-best friend forever. Jess, soon to be ex-Tyler. Ex-best friends forever brother, Jake. And I'll just refer to my dad as Dad. I have a few things I want to get through, so I'll just summarize as best as I can, and if you have any questions I'll answer in the comments. To get this out of the way, because to me it feels important. Yesterday I scheduled a same-day appointment with my obstetrician gynecologist and got tested for just about every STD/STI out there. I got the results back and they were all negative. There's a few that take up to 2 weeks to get the results back for, so I'll be waiting on those. When I met with my lawyer, I bought everything on my end financially wise, including the wills from both my dad and my mom, and I managed to get my hands on his financial documents. He stores his in his office in a locked box. I also brought over everything we had set up financially for my children. While I'm not totally sure if it's everything, I'm pretty confident I got most of it. My lawyer was happy I managed to get my hands on that much. Ruth even handed over her will to me from both her and Bob to ensure I was taken care of in the divorce. My lawyer understands I am wanting a divorce immediately, however she wants to make sure she is thorough and isn't missing any key info. So hopefully I'll have actual divorce papers to give him in about 30 days. I'm not rushing her though, I'm letting the professional do her job. Now for the sit down. I asked Angie and Ruth to describe everything in detail on what happened. Angie, the revenge seeker that she is, forced them to sit through a slideshow she put together of all of the texts. I know a lot of you were concerned about one of them telling them sooner than later, but they were so secretive they didn't even tell their significant others about what was happening. Once the slideshow ended, Tyler tried lunging for Jess and Joe actually had to force him to sit down. Tyler was shouting profanities at Jess and telling her she will regret this. Jess started crying and begging her parents for forgiveness. Bob looked his daughter in the eye and told her he will never forgive her for this. Blood or not, she is no daughter of his. He didn't raise his daughter to be this person. Jess was always a daddy's girl, so I think that cut her pretty deep. Jess is in the middle of a divorce herself and her parents were giving her money for her lawyer and they told her she is cut off from them both financially and physically. Tyler's dad was irate. According to Ruth, he looked like he was holding back on throttling him. From there Tyler went straight home. I know because we have a Ring doorbell camera along with a few cameras in the house for our kids to keep an eye on them when we aren't right next to them. Tyler came home and saw that most of mine and the kids' stuff was gone and he lost it. Started yelling and throwing things. The house is now trashed with a few holes in the walls for decoration. When he didn't find us there, he went to my dad's. While I did spend most of the day, he was at work packing and moving things into my dad's house. We were already at his cabin. Tyler took a baseball bat to my dad's door trying, and failing, to break it down. My dad's neighbor actually called the cops on him and he was arrested. His parents refused to bail him out. I had an appointment with my therapist today. I've had one for a year now since I was struggling with my dad, and it felt good to just cry it out and let everything out about how I was feeling. It was very helpful and she gave me a few tools to work through my emotions with this one. I felt very grounded and empowered leaving my session today. I'm also planning on setting up my children with a therapist when we get back from the cabin to figure out the best way to deal with telling them. I know people said I shouldn't, but I will be telling them, just in an age-appropriate way. I don't want there to be secrets and lies between us. I've always been as open and honest as I can with them, again in the most kid-appropriate way. Just because they're small humans, they're still humans and still deserve the truth. I had a handful of comments telling me I should stay and every man cheats. I should work things out because most of our marriage was good. I refuse to believe all men cheat. My parents were married for 20 years and after my mom passed, my dad never moved on. I watched my dad love my mom for 12 of those years and cherish her. I will not accept anything less than that kind of love. He never cheated, nor did she. While I'm not sure when I'll be ready to move on, falling in love is the absolute last thing on my mind at the moment. I refuse to let Tyler win and destroy love for me completely. I will move on from this. Jess started blowing up my phone demanding I fix this situation and immediately blaming me. My lawyer told me to not block texts just in case they spill out additional info I was missing. She was playing the poor me card very hard. The thing is though, I never influenced Angie and Bob to cut contact with their daughter, they made that choice on their own. She actually started blaming me for stealing the love of her life. I introduced them when Tyler and I started dating, so not sure where that came from, and that Tyler is only with me for the kids. Honestly, I knew she was just trying to hurt me at that point. I didn't give her the satisfaction of responding though. Between her and Tyler I have about 200 missed calls. Tyler went from begging and pleading me to forgive him. Like I said, I didn't have divorce papers to hand him, so he's stuck in this unknown gray area. I also asked Angie and Ruth to not say anything about the divorce to him yet. Purely just for my satisfaction, honestly. I know it's slightly petty, but keeping him in that gray area of not knowing is my small revenge to him. To threatening to call the cops on me for kidnapping, telling me Jess wasn't the only one, bingo, just what I was looking for, to telling me I'm a stuck-up bitch, to threatening me, to back to begging me for forgiveness. Honestly, it was just a whiplash reading those texts. I'd be lying if I said that those texts didn't hurt me and terrify me all at once, but I refuse to let them break me. As for both of them together, I don't think he's going to stay with her. I think he blames her for blowing up our marriage, honestly. Who knows though, they deserve each other. I was initially okay to do a 50-50th split with Tyler for custody, but after his reaction I don't feel comfortable with that, so I'll likely be going for full custody. Jake has about 30 days of leave he's saved up, and he's going to be using them to help the kids and I get settled at my dad's house, and honestly to be there in case Tyler tries showing up going crazy again. He's been such a big help to the kids and I lately, and I'm forever in his debt for this. Last night after the kids went to bed he hooked up his Xbox and we played a game called Diablo 4 together to help me take my mind off of things. It was fun. However, he did sort of confess that he's always had feelings for me somewhere in the midst of things, but also told me to not say or do anything back. He understands a relationship or anything like that isn't on my mind and won't be for a while. He isn't wrong, but just that he's felt that way since we were teenagers and just wanted to get it off his chest. Thank you again. Seriously, your comments, your support, your messages, all of it has been one giant breath of fresh air. Just knowing I have a whole online community willing to go to bat for me has kept me treading water these last couple days. Your comments have popped in my head when I felt like just giving up on leaving him because it's so hard, and gave me so many great points and helpful advice. I know I deserve more and I can't accept his actions. And to the people who commented relating to my situation, my heart goes out to you all. This pain is awful and I hate that so many of you can relate, but your stories have resonated deep within me. You all keep commending me for my strength, and my personal favorite is telling me how proud of me you are. Every time I see those words I start to tear up. I'm blaming the pregnancy hormones, but your words have helped put me at ease so that way I could do what I knew I needed to do. So I'll leave this here for now. If anything of importance happens when I go back home I'll update further. Thank you all, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Questions in the comments. Hobbit Bones. I'm sure many of us would like to know, have you told your lawyer that you want to go for full custody? And have you saved those messages your soon-to-be ex said with threats toward you and your children? I'm sure you have, since you saved screenshots of messages the first time. You've handled this really well. You've done all the right things to gather evidence and protect yourself. I'm proud of you. And I really wish the best for you and your children. OP answer. I forwarded everything to her as well as telling her he was arrested, and she responded with, full custody. And I agreed. Thank you, truly so much. A comment deleted after an overwhelming number of downvotes faulted OP for taking her kid's father away from them. To this OP replied, I'm not taking away their father. I will not keep them from him at all. But yes, I will most likely go for full custody. Not out of bitterness or spite, because I could simply never be that person. There is zero excuse for punching holes in walls, and trying to break down my dad's door, threatening to unalive me, unalive our children. If he wants to see them I will allow supervised visits. Maybe in the future if he gets therapy and help for those thoughts and actions I'll allow it. For now my mind is made up. You may see it as running away, but I see it as taking space to comprehend what has happened to my life and allow myself breathing room. My entire future I had carved out for myself and my children has exploded right in front of my face. That deserves breathing room. And yes, I allowed others to confront what they did to me, simply because I don't have the mental capacity. My focus is on my kids and my dad, everything else is background noise. Honestly, even if I did confront them myself, my in-laws and ex-friends' parents would have had their own confrontation regardless. I am fully aware I will have to face the music one day. However, today is not that day and I plan on enjoying that for the time being. People doubted if OP's story was true as the break between updates was quite short, with comments like, all this in 1 day and a half. To which OP replied, My doctor's appointment took an hour at max. Most OBs do same-day appointments for urgent reasons. I just moved clothing, some toys and any of my important things to my dad's, which is 15 minutes away from my home with help from quite a few people. To be honest, it wasn't even a lot of stuff to move anyways. It all fit in the bed of my father-in-law's pickup. I was lucky that a lawyer had a same-day opening spot and gathered documents that are all stored in one spot because I keep them organized. I already have weekly virtual therapy sessions, which just so happened to be today, which was an hour. All I did was give my in-laws and ex-BFF's parents the screenshots and saw them for about 2 hours before I headed home. Which I usually spend time with my dad in the evenings, so he was fully aware of where I was, but I asked him to stay home and start dinner instead of coming and drive to a cabin. I found out yesterday around 6-7 a.m. Do people not understand how little actually happened? Jess, I was hoping it wasn't you when I saw this on TikTok, but obviously it is you, Kirsten. I told you to break up with him. I told you Tobias was in love with me. You refused to listen. I told you my husband left me because he was cheating, but it was because Toby told me we could run away together and we could be together. You ruined everything and now he won't speak to me. You need to clean your mess up instead of posting on socials being a pathetic POS. You're unbelievable. Did you think I wouldn't see this and find out? I hope you miscarry. Technical_pumpkin_65s, also somebody in OP's life. Reply to Jess? Are you serious, Jade? Apparently Jess's real name. Coming here and playing the victim, you disgusting fake human being. Not only that, but you expose yourself by telling the real names. Now everyone will know it's you and your entourage. You are so jealous and have a huge obsession with Kirsten that you ruined your own life after all the mess you created. It's obvious Toby never loved you but just wanted to use you for his pleasure. There is nothing more easier to manipulate than a jealous freak who has an obsession with him. If he really wanted to run away with you, he would have done it a long time ago, but he lied to your face with the one big excuse ever: I stay for the kids. Ha ha ha, you are the clown. Well, **** here, not victim. That's why even your own parents cut you out from their lives too. You are such a shame as a woman, but also as a human being. You pretend to befriend and betray not only her but your family and your own husband. Can't wait to hear what will happen to you when more people will know around you. You will finally receive the treatment you deserve, especially after wishing her to lose her baby. Karma will do his job now. OP's reply to Jess: you told me to break up with him when I was 19 and you were engaged to another man. You never said why. You never said anything about him, because if you did I never would have been married and you would have been cut out sooner. Also, no, I put fake names in the post to protect your identities, but if you want to blast yourself to the public, that's your choice, not mine. Update 3. Hi everyone. I know a lot of people are still asking for an update. Not much has happened, but here are the things that have happened. Tyler discovered the post and asked me if I was seeking a divorce. I said I was. He apologized for losing his cool. Asked if there was any hope for reconciliation. I said no. We did have a conversation about the kids, and he'll be allowed to see them with supervision, to which he agreed to. I had another meeting with my lawyer. Nothing of major importance happened. Nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, has happened with Jake. He didn't take back his confession, but as I said, it's on the back burner for a long while. My kids' health and well-being take priority over all else. My dad's health is on a steady decline. He's now in the hospital with no release date in the immediate future. Please send over thoughts and well wishes his way. My kids are adjusting well. We have a therapy appointment for them scheduled next week to help them. My oldest has more questions than the rest, but I'm trying to save any big conversations for the therapy appointment, so I know I'm conveying the answers in a meaningful and the least harmful way. Also, my oldest made tryouts for the traveling soccer league. Yay. Oh, and the baby is doing great. Things have calmed down a lot. Truly. I feel like I have a better grip on things. I've been putting most of my focus on my dad and kids to keep myself busy. Thanks you friends for the love, support, and for checking in. New update. Hey everyone. I'm still getting daily messages and comments for an update, so here is what could possibly be my final one. My dad passed away about a week after my last update. I knew it was coming, but it still feels like a gut punch. Thank you to everyone who kept him in your thoughts. Truly. My marriage has officially ended. Once Tyler, I believe that's the fake name I assigned to him, please don't call me out if it's not, it's been a while, discovered just how serious I was about leaving him, he became compliant and was willing to give me everything I asked for in the divorce. So my lawyer opted for a dissolution versus divorce. The process is a lot quicker and goes smoothly. As of right now, I have full custody while he works out his anger management and whatnot with therapy. I'm not sure if I'll ever trust him again with the kids, but I'm also in therapy, as are my kids. I'm not making any decisions at all right now when it comes to that. He gets supervised visits at a facility where there is an army of staff and security and someone is there at all times. That's once a week, and he does get video calls twice a week. The kids are adjusting pretty well. There are days when I think it affects them more, but they've suffered some big losses, so it's to be expected. I did decide to give the baby my dad's first name though. It just felt right. But the baby is doing so very well and is thriving despite the amount of stress I've had going on. I'm managing as best as I can with everything going on. I miss my dad like crazy and I'm still trying to figure out how to exist in a world where he doesn't. The grief still is so very heavy. I'm still mourning my marriage as well. I don't regret leaving him, but it still hurts me deeply. However, I'm picking up the pieces and making my life whole without him. My mother-in-law, well, ex-mill now I guess. I don't know, it still feels weird. And Angie helped me out so much. They've really allowed me to lean on them in these moments. Whether it be taking the kids for a little while or cooking dinner for us when I don't have the energy. I truly am so lucky to have them. And finally, to what you all have been waiting to hear about, Jake. Jake is now back in California. He tried extending his leave but the military said no. It was truly wonderful having him there and helping me. In the first few days after my dad's passing, he picked up so much slack for me that I will truly never be able to repay him for it. He is so patient and kind. That being said, nothing has happened between us. Though he did hold me while I broke down after the kids went to bed quite a few times. But that's the extent of it. No kissing or anything like that. He does call me and text me multiple times a day. Right now I just don't have any room in my life for romance. I have so much grief and the weight of being a single mom has been heavy. He hasn't pushed me on it either. He let me know that he meant every word he said and that he's willing to just be my friend until I decide I want more, if I ever decide I want more with him. I wish I could be the girl that jumps in with both feet, but the betrayal from my ex is still fresh and I'm worried I would burn anything out before it started. So I asked for friends and time to process everything else in my life before I even consider processing a new relationship. He happily agreed. Oh, and Tyler and Jess are not a couple. Most of you were right, he left her high and dry. Though I don't wish misery on anyone, I'd be lying if I didn't say I get the smallest amount of satisfaction that her life went up in smoke. She's been blacklisted from her family. And I know a lot of you said it's weird that her parents did that, but if you guys knew just how deep my bond went with that family, it wouldn't seem weird at all. Angie is like my surrogate mom. She gave me the safe sex talk, the period talk, she listened to me cry about the boys who broke my heart, she held my hand while I delivered my kids. When she talks about me, she calls me her daughter. She knew my mom for practically her whole life. She held my mom's hand when she delivered me, and if anything had happened to both of my parents, she's who I would have gone to live with. My parents had that in their will. So with all of that being said, please just be kind to me in the comments. I put this off for a few days because of how hostile some people were and the prospect of being called a liar doesn't sound too appealing at the moment. Again, I can't thank you for the amount of light and love I've received from you. I promise I read every comment and message, I just haven't had the capacity to respond. You have really helped brighten my days with all of your words of encouragement. I appreciate you all. I am so lucky to have an army of internet friends, you guys are the best.